Oh ho ho! Whoa! Welcome, welcome, welcome to hell. Ooh, okay. Well, what's up? I guess we're streaming for 2 days. Woo yeah! So no debate. No, me. Apparently the bridge was well, it wasn't closed, but it was down to one lane from Miami Beach to Miami today. So my 25-minute drive was an hour and a half, which means not only did I miss my flight, the second flight I could have taken was also missed. So good one. Feels amazing. So welcome to my 3 hours of sleep. I'm gonna be molding. What did I just open this for? I don't even remember why. Please stop. Putin, please. Please stop. This isn't for my Detroit thing. It was for the... I was supposed to go to California. I shouldn't do, I need to do like 3 events when I go to California. I should just fly the night before, so that dumb shit like this doesn't happen. But, it's probably not worth it for me to just fly there for one event and then fly back. But if I would have gone yesterday, it feels weird to miss like 3 days of streaming for a singular event in California. I just need a private jet. That's what I actually need. Yeah, this is the abortion debate. Oh. Yo, this guy. He's the dude. I didn't realize that. The guy from Tenet.
You like to get into the details, so let's talk about the plans, the structure, and the period of time. Get money back if you're a taxpayer in the sense of no more payoffs, buyouts, or whatever that the Biden administration left in place.
Well, thank you, David, and you and Lisa both for having me on this afternoon. Well, the plan is very simple. We have announced that beginning May 5th, you must start to repay your loan. And this is not to in any way try to cause hardships. There are several different payment plans that you can access. If you go to studentaid.gov, there are several plans there that can help you. We also are keeping hours open longer at the service centers and also having them open on the weekend to answer any questions. And there will also be AI help with Aiden, who can answer many questions for you relative to your loan. So we're trying to, to make it easily accessible for responsible folks to pay back their loans, but they need to get on it because there isn't going to be any loan forgiveness program. As you know, the White House press secretary said this afternoon, there's no such thing as loan forgiveness. It just gets transferred to someone else, and that's just not fair.
Yeah, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Oh, no. Don't rob Peter.
And the structure and the period of time to, one, get money back if you're a taxpayer in the sense of no more.
Well, thank you, David. And it's very simple. We have announced that beginning May 5th, you must start to repay your loan. And
this is everybody's making this big deal, but this is fine. I think a lot of loans are put into, is it forbearance for student loans, or the repayments got halted during COVID and they're just bringing the repayments back or whatever. It's not. It is what it is. This is going to happen anyway. I think, unless something different is happening. The fuck is this? She got her PPP loan forgiven, it seems. I'm pretty sure all PPP loans were forgiven if you use them to pay employees. That was the whole point of them, right? If they weren't forgiving PPP loans, I'd have no issues? What do PPP loans have to do with student loans? What? And the whole point of the PPP loans were that they were going to be forgiven, right?
became way more dangerous. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then it's kind of a psychology question. Like, how do you find people where they are? You don't want to blow off those fears, but you do want to reach people with real data and real numbers and information that is real. And the thing that really scares me about the moment we're in is it's harder and harder for everybody to have access.
She said no loan can be forgiven. It's just transferred to someone else to pay. That's their point. Oh, well, but the point of the PPP loans was they were paid for with tax money to... it was stimulus. The PPP loans were stimulus, right? People had to pay back a portion of the PPP loans, I thought. No, I'm pretty sure the PPP loans were totally forgiven as long as they went towards employee paychecks or whatever.
Access to the same facts. It's one thing, like I grew up in a world where, but the thing that really scares me about the moment we're in is it's harder and harder for everybody to have access to the same facts. It's one thing, like I grew up in a world where you watch TV, you got your news from TV, which is like antique from what I can tell talking to students now. But you would watch a TV show and maybe that TV show, that network didn't do it perfectly. But generally what they would try to do is they would cover an issue, whatever it was, abortion, taxes, some bill moving through Congress, and they would have the Republican saying Republican things and the Democrat saying Democratic things, and you would think about it. And watching that, like often hearing the other side would just make you feel what you believed even stronger because you'd be thinking of your own counter arguments. And other times something the other side said would actually get through to you. But the point is you would think about it. And you'd have to contend with what other people had to say. And while there were different opinions going around based on different values, they tended to be in an argument that was over the same facts. Now, we don't even have the same facts. And that is a massive, massive problem.
Trusting statistics, like for me personally, I have an issue with like data in that regard. Because like what's the saying? Like you can torture the numbers; they'll tell you anything you want. You know, like it's difficult because every side has different data interpretations to support their.
Okay, just to be clear, this is not true. Or like, there's a world where it's true, where you can torture numbers to get whatever you want, but that's not where we're at right now. We just don't even believe in a basic set of shared facts anymore. You don't have to torture numbers. People just make shit up. It's not even remotely the case anymore, but
and now they're just making up stuff.
Yeah, and like a lack of public trust that I think is probably one of the largest issues I think in American politics is that you can't trust the data, you can't trust the politicians. I think that's the general feeling, and I think even like congressional stock trading is like a major issue with this. I'm curious your opinion on like private holdings for publicly elected officials when it comes to the stock market, and I think that is one of the main things that is eroding the public trust in politicians.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real problem, and I think they should get rid of it. I mean, this was not a problem for me because I didn't have a lot of wealth. Look, I get it. If I was a millionaire, I'm sure I would like think twice before taking a public service job if that meant having to divest. But like, we're talking about people who are sometimes responsible for like multi-billion-dollar decisions, or in terms of like the course of the national economy, like trillion-dollar level outcomes, right? And if they think even for a second about like, oh, what's this going to do to my stock in Google or whatever, that's a problem, right? And that coupled with, and this is less politically popular, but I also think a lot of public servants don't get paid enough. And I would go to bat for them getting paid, maybe not the same as the private sector. Like I get that that's never going to be the same, but I do think that they need to be compensated well enough that they don't have to swallow quite as hard before deciding.
You have to incentivize the best and brightest to do the most important jobs. I think it goes for cops,
and again,
doctors,
ideally
teachers,
reward the ones who are
politicians. But you can't trade stock to make up for the difference. I think.
But I think it's interesting what you said. Like, people feel like they can't trust the data, they can't trust the politicians. Like, I think those two things are linked because actually the data, it's actually very, very rare for data to be put out that is objectively false. They can happen. Like usually, like the data are like based on some real set that the data somebody gathered.
But it can be manipulated.
Right? But how it looks or how you make it sound. I mean, they're doing this right now. Again, the Doge stuff, they make it sound like there's like millions of dead people getting Social Security.
Exactly.
We're just not. That's just not true.
So how many are there dead people? That's because this seemed to me fact.
Well, first of all, like
Biden can get it.
Look, I mean, one thing to think about is like, obviously, the vast majority of people who die of old age are getting.
Oh no! Does he not know that that Death Master file stuff? Does he not understand where these numbers come from? Come on, Pete, you can do it.
Social Security the day they die, right? So like for at least a minute or a week or a month or however long it takes, right? There's that process of updating. But part of it had, or a week, are getting Social Security. Think about it, is like, obviously the vast majority of people who die of old age are getting Social Security the day they die, right? So like for at least a minute or a week or a month or however long it takes, right? There's that process of updating. But
man, I think I said this before. They knew my grandma was dead in like fucking 1 or 2 weeks, because I tried to steal my grandma's last Social Security check, because it was getting. I think I had it diverted into my account, or I had control over it because I had power of attorney over her for the last years of her life because I was helping her manage her shit. And she died, and then the Social Security got deposited, I think like 2 days later. And I was like, hello, free $1,600 or whatever. We're fucking ballin'. And then before I even finished saying ballin', they clawed that shit back. I was like, what? It was in like a week or two. I don't know how I didn't even know. I figured it would take them a while. I thought it was going to get like 6 months of free Social Security. Motherfuckers.
Part of it
maybe it's not the same for everybody though. I don't know.
To do with how the database was built, and you just didn't necessarily like remove everybody from the database. It didn't mean they were getting money, but it meant they were in the database. And so you could twist that into looking like this is what the president did in his speech. Like it's true, and you just didn't necessarily like remove everybody from the database. It didn't mean they were getting money, but it meant they were in the database. And so you could twist that into looking like this is what the president did in his speech. Like it's true, there's this database that had all these people from like 100 years ago. It was not true that they were getting checks. Okay, but he said the one part.
That's good.
And your brain fills in the blanks, and now you think, oh shit, there's like millions of people who are 150 years old getting checks.
They sent federal agents to my grandmother's house to verify death. Wait, what? Really?
Not true. So, but the real thing is, we don't trust the people who are supposed to be interpreting the data, and that is like a societal problem. It's not just politicians, right? It's an erosion of trust in every institution where somebody is supposed to help us make sense of this. And I come out of the local, right, where we're a little more connected to reality, because if the roads are in shitty condition and I'm the mayor and I can produce some statistics saying that the roads are great, people can call me out and say, no, they're not. Like I drive on these roads all the time and they're not.
And they're going to see you at the supermarket.
And they will find me and they will tell me what they think of the condition of our roads, right? You get up to the national level and you're so removed from that you start to get into these like alternate reality zones. And then you add to that the fragmentation of where people get their information, because there isn't the, the famous example is Walter Cronkite, right? Like everybody in the 60s, like turned.
The Social Security people don't fuck around. They sent 3 dudes to my house to verify when my grandma died, and when they found out she was still alive, they killed her.
On Walter Cronkite, and it's not so much that he told people what to think, it's that he laid out a certain set of facts, certain set of things that happened. And everybody, they can argue over what it means, but they would generally agree on what just happened.
Right.
And we don't even have that.
Yeah, we're in the echo chambers, and the algorithms are.
You are, yes, you. We means like you, definitely.
Just making those echo chambers more extreme.
So the algorithms are even worse. I mean, the other problem.
The scary thing is these guys will just agree with Pete here and then go back to believing in dumb shit. How do you reconcile that if you're someone like Pete Buttigieg? Voters just look for confirmation bias in politics. That's why the issue is you need debate. You have to have debate. Because if Pete comes on and says all of this now, and then next week another guy comes on and says some crazy shit, like you said, yeah, they're all going to agree with that guy. But how do you know who's right or who's wrong? I mean, in a vacuum, they're all probably going to be relatively persuasive, right? Or at least they should be. But if you have 2 of them arguing with each other, well, now it's a lot easier to kind of vibe out like who knows what they're talking about and who's utterly full of shit,
Problem I would say is like we no longer have the access to the editorial function, by which I mean like a professional news organization. I used to get so mad at from the South Bend Tribune to the New York Times. There were times when I was so pissed over a story or framing or whatever. But I will say, if I actually found that they got something actually factually wrong and showed it, they would correct it. Like there is that ethos.
Now there is no.
And like professional journalistic organizations have to do that. But if we're in a world where somebody weights like what some dude on the internet says the same as a organization where there are people who have to hold to journalistic standards, if that's the same, well, that dude on the internet doesn't have to issue a correction. He doesn't even have to reveal like who he is, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people looking at their feeds, and those 2 things seem equal.
Also, go. The algorithm is going to reward the more salacious version of that information.
Yes, it rewards the lizard brain.
Yes.
Because your lizard brain is taught. The thing we don't realize is every time we click on something, look at something, let alone like something or share something, or I don't know, I'm still talking in Twitter terms like an old man, but like whatever the kids are doing these days, you are actually making a statement about your editorial preferences.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're not intentionally doing it. You're not
They
saying
know us
like,
better than we know ourselves. Yeah.
give me more. But to me, it's not just how they know us. It's we all have different levels. There's like what we want and what we want to want.
Okay.
There's what we think is important.
This is why TikTok works better than Instagram.
How do you mean?
Because TikTok is what we actually want, and Instagram is what we want to want. We follow.
I see where he's going, but I'm pretty sure both these platforms are pretty similar at this point, but okay.
All these people, we think we want information about what's going on in the world, but TikTok is like, motherfucker, I know what you want. Just shut up, sit down, and scroll. And that's why we watch more TikTok.
Yeah.
And Instagram's trying to compete, but the reality is we don't want to look at all the people we follow.
But also because like both of those things are true. Like both of those are us, right? The me that clicks on the stupid bullshit because it's funny is the same me as the one who, if you just sat me down and said, okay, if I want to allocate like what topics are covered in the hour I'm going to spend online today, would like try to like choose the more high-minded stuff, right? They're both us. They're both real.
Yes.
But the algorithm is empowering the lizard brain. Over the actual, like the citizen brain.
Yeah, it's less cognitive effort. It's more cognitive effort to think about what you want to consume that day and put some work into it. Way less to just scroll.
Even though if it makes you better off, in the same way that like reading a good book might actually at the end of the
enhance
time you read it, like make you better, like make you feel better even.
Guys, let's take a break real quick so we can talk about the NBA playoffs. Pete, this is not his bag. You know what I mean? Even though the men are in shorts.
Let's get back to the show.
You said one thing that's important for the Democrats is it's where they go and not just kind of staying in the echo chamber. So you're coming on this podcast, which I commend you and thank you for. But is that getting met with a lot of like, I guess, acceptance and like, oh, yes, we should do that? Or are you kind of the only Democrat doing this?
I think it sounds like your experience has been not a lot of people in my party are willing
I'm begging these people.
Do this.
Yeah.
I think that's a mistake.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, look, to be fair, you know, if you're in politics, you know that anything you do, you can get shredded for. Even not something you do, but something that somebody sitting next to you does, and you don't make the appropriate face or scold them for, right? Like, and there's even a contagion of cancel culture where like if you're around somebody who does something, right? And I want to parse like some of that's maybe legitimate and some of it is problematic, right? But all of that's there. And people who are running for office want to win. Obviously, they want to keep their jobs. And to me, it's worth some risk in order to reach everybody. And again, that's partly the habits that I formed while I was an unheard of, 30-something-year-old Indiana mayor running for president. Epic. So we did everything. Like we would do CNN if they would have me, but we would do, literally like Iowa college lesbian radio was like I would like do a show, like anybody who would talk to me. I think that's better though, because I think it better resembles what politics is supposed to be. Like politics obviously has a bad name. People are pissed at politics and frustrated at politics and hurt by politics. But like, to me, politics is a process of making decisions about how we're going to have laws and rules that all of us have to live by and how we're going to spend resources that all of us are paying into. And for that to make any sense, there has to be a process of encounter. Like we have to be encountering people who don't think like us and don't view the world the way we do, both in order to actually legitimately become smarter and better and make better choices and have better positions, and just in order to persuade. There's no persuasion now, or I think there's not enough persuasion. And that's why we have these 50-50 elections, like this current election. The president won, he says it was a landslide, but like we used to have actual landslides in this country. Reagan, that was a landslide. And I think that my party should aspire to be like a 60% party. And I think we could do it because most of the issues that most people care about, not all, but most issues, taxes, abortion, guns.
Why does Hassan not like Pete? He's like the perfect progressive because Hassan is a tanky. He hates progressives or like liberals. Pete is like super liberal coded or whatever, and tankies don't like those people.
Educate, like things that affect how your day-to-day life goes. Healthcare for sure.
You think guns is one of them?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, look, obviously there's a big divide.
Regulation, I think,
But if we're talking about like
I think there's support
checks,
for regulation, there's support for background checks, but I don't know if
but
I
think
would
about
like
background checks. Think about what
the
it
election on
says.
guns.
Sure. But what I'm saying is like something like universal background checks, that's got like between 80 and 90% support.
Yeah, I'm
80% of
supportive.
Republicans are supporting
And they're trying
gun
to
owners,
reverse
and
it.
yet we don't have. Yeah, like it's hard to even hold on to what we've got, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, my point is like my party should be on by the numbers doing better than it does because more people agree with us more of the time on more policies than not, and so. Yes, we have some work to do on policy.
So what do you got to
'cause I think-
change? Like, how do you just, sorry, Al, but how do you change that perception if you know that more people agree with the policies that you guys have? Why aren't they agreeing with you? And what are you doing wrong?
I think the biggest problem.
Piggyback on that.
Yeah.
So, I think it's great going everywhere to speak to people. One thing that I don't see happening from the Democratic Party is getting their message out and actually convincing people or letting them know like, hey, we're doing stuff or these are the stuff we've gotten done. This is something I don't like that Trump does, but it actually works with like permeating the culture. Like he ran on, hey, I'm going to get all these criminal migrants out of the country. And then he makes a video where you see all these guys chained up coming off a plane going in. That's messaging that you don't even need to understand. You see it and it's like, hey, he said he's going to do something and look, he's getting it done. So it's like, I think he knows how to play that social media game where it's like, oh, I know how to speak to people. And that's something Dems aren't doing at all. So it's great that you go talk to other places, but what other ways can you get your messaging through to people?
The only one that does it is AOC and Bernie.
Yeah.
And it's very specific and very targeted, and it works. And it feels like everybody else is worried about, offending somebody or being yelled at by one of your constituents or one of those groups that you're supposed
Is Pete
to.
watering down / hand-holding too much here, or do you find these liberal reach outs to be more productive than they seem? They're probably good.
Be protected.
Yeah. So I think two things. One, I think what they're getting right, which is also what Trump understands about politics and attention, is that you can't be afraid of controversy. And sometimes it takes controversy to get something recognized. So, for example, like part of why the country is talking about these deportations is there's a couple of things that are traveling together. Like one, like I think most people would agree with the idea that like violent criminals shouldn't be here, right? But then other things are happening, like they take some guy and just send him by mistake to a Salvadoran prison, right? Which is obviously, first of all, a huge, huge problem, like morally and policy-wise. But in terms of the media game that he's playing, even if it's bad luck to have screwed up in that way, it helps him draw attention to what you're talking about, in addition to like the social media pictures of it being lined up in the chains. I experienced this a little bit in our stuff because when we did something, when we like got a bridge or a road built, it was incredibly hard to get attention on that. Like we did it. Like I was out there, I'd go on TV, I'd wave the flag, we'd do an event, cut a ribbon. But it turns out when something was uncontroversially good, it was way harder to get anybody to notice. The projects we got the most coverage on didn't get the most coverage because the project was really great, although I believe in our projects. We did 70,000 projects around the country, from like little airport thing to like the Hudson River Tunnel. The projects that got the most coverage were the ones where we caught a Republican congressman trying to take credit for the project after they voted against it. Because it just created like a different, more interesting story, right? So like nobody would even know that we were, or very few people would have ever heard that we were doing a rapid transit project in Charleston, South Carolina, if the member of Congress there, Nancy Mace, hadn't tried to take credit for it and then got blown up on the internet because she tried to stop the funding from happening in the first place. So it's complicated to figure out what lesson Democrats should learn from all this. But part of it, and part of what I think Bernie and AOC are doing quite well, is they're not afraid of some controversy, of naming bad guys, of talking about kind of why we are where we are. And I think we need to...
Also just addressing societal utility. Like if you want attention for a project that has to meet societal utility, people have to need it, they have to want it, and they have to feel like they're not allowed to have it. And then you bring it to them, and then they're really excited. Yeah. If people aren't tripping about a bridge or like worried about a Second Avenue subway, like I'm telling you, nobody's gonna care when Nelson gets that subway, and it's not gonna be anything that you get patted on the back about. But if there's something that people in New York City do really care about and they're really concerned about, and you guys address it, you will be heroes. It's the nature of what, so it's like...
I think so, but it is tougher when it just goes well.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think that makes perfect sense. Like when we expect the roads to work. So when they work, we don't go, great job, Pete, right? Or whoever's in control, right? We expect the plane to land. We don't go, matter of fact, if they applaud for the captain, you're like, who are these cornballs? Like it's supposed to land, right? Like that is like a reaction people have. But if there are things that we, and this is one of those situations where it's like, if there's things that we want, the people want, and you are the one to bring it to us, you will be really applauded, especially if we feel like we've been asking for it for years and nobody's listened to us at all.
He should ask, what did Trump give in the first 4 years that you think people were asking for, that he actually delivered on? And then has Trump given anything now? That'd be a good question.
I think if you do certain things for us, not you, somebody in your position, that we're not asking for, right? And then go, but this is what you need. Now we're back at the finger wagging, where we're like, bro, I didn't even want that to be fixed. Why do you want credit for this thing we're not even asking for? So I think it's really about listening. What do you think people actually, in America, what do you think people really need? If there's 5 issues, what are the things that they're concerned about?
Like all of them are some version of the same thing, which is freedom and security. And with that, I think democracy. But really, like, I don't think a lot of people like come up on the street saying like, I want more democracy. I think there's a way that's absolutely true. But in terms of what people really want, I think people want to live a life of their choosing. They want things to work. They want our country to be better than any other country in terms of the quality of our roads and the strength of our economy and the kind of education they can get. Right? We want America to be the best place to live.
Roads. We go all over the country. Like we're actually weirdly good people, comedians are good people to talk about when it comes to like the different parts of this country and how people are living, because we go every single weekend. Every different weird, obscure part of this country, we're there. It's not just the big cities, like we're everywhere. And it's roads everywhere. I ask people every time I go to a city because I want to know what's going on. I want to know what they're frustrated by. It's roads every single time. If Pete, this day one, you were like, I'm fixing every fucking road in America, and then you did, you'd be president. You know, because it's something people are actually frustrated by, and they don't feel like the government is answering. You know, what are the other 5 things like that? Okay, so that's one. Security is the other one.
Well, before we get to security, I think there's also like there's a sense that you can afford what you need in order to live. Like, that's why prices are such a huge problem, and it's why I think tariffs are the wrong medicine, because they might make certain things or be designed to make certain things better, but they don't make prices better, they make prices worse. So affordability, housing, right? The ability to just like believe that you get a job, you get a promotion, you're going to get a house, or you're going to get a better house.
All right, how do we do it?
Right? So we got to build more houses.
How?
Well, we've got to strip away some of the barriers to building houses.
Talk that. This is what I like. Tell me. Right? Take back land.
What?
I don't know. It sounded fun. I'm just saying, like, I want to see the Democrats be a little more gangster. Like, Republicans would go, we're taking Greenland. What is your build a wall? What is your statement? What is your outlandish thing that you might not do, but it kind of riles people up? It gets the people going. Like, if you want to say, hey, we're going to seize this land and we're going to build 200,000 affordable housing units on it, that might make some people get excited.
It would get attention. Yeah, it would solve for that
attention is good.
Thing. Not exactly how I would solve the problem, but yeah. Point is like we need.
I'm being facetious, but there is a truth. There is some truth in it, which is like I don't know what the statement is for Democrats. I don't know what your build a wall is. Well, and you need a version of that, because those are the things that people attach themselves to. As Alex said, like he's like, hey, we're deporting all these people who are here illegally, and then you show the video, and then people are like, that's what I voted for, and it's happening. I feel good.
I thought the Build Back Better that Biden tried to do was a good idea, and then it failed fairly quickly, and then that was just kind of the end of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I feel like the thing we're kind of skirting, like touching on a little. I'm curious what you think. Like it seems like from like a political philosophy point of view, it's easier for conservatives when looking at like the conservative liberal paradigm, because for liberals, they have to have a direction to go. They have to say, where are we going to go? And it seems like within the Democrat Party, there's a fracturing or like a bifurcating where you have the anti-Trump people that are like, we just hate Trump. And then you have sort of the economic, leftist liberal that says we need to tax the rich.
Gretchen Whitmer literally said she was going to fix all the roads in Michigan. Then all the conservatives started complaining about how there's too much construction. Based.
And then you have sort of this social cultural war, Democrat that's like, we need to support all the downtrodden
Different
people.
ideas for progress.
And it seems so, spread and disorganized, whereas the conservatives just have to say, let's go back. And they can point at all the liberals and say, look how crazy they are. Let's just go back.
Yeah.
And so it seems like it's way easier for the conservative.
Oh, no question. Yeah. I mean, if the conservative project is just we're going to demolish, government is frustrating, irritating, doesn't always meet your expectations, so we're just going to burn it down, right? Or everything was better way back when, so we're just going to take you back there. Absolutely. I mean, that's what Make America Great Again is.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's why I think it
like,
works.
but the reality is like there is no such thing as, in the real world, there is no again. The future is going to look different. Look at the world we're going into. We're going into a world where AI is transforming everything. I think we're still at the outset of that. We're going into a world where China is a very different kind of player than it was not that long ago. We're contending with some really heavy things that are going to require really original thinking. And part of, I think, where both parties have a problem is a kind of nostalgia. So you've got the Republicans who are kind of nostalgic for the social order of the 50s, like women are in their place and we don't have to worry too much about like, any kind of minority, whether it's a racial minority or a gender minority, like asserting too much desire for freedom or equality, like everybody's in their place. And Democrats have a nostalgia for this kind of New Deal and post-World War II order. Like in terms of foreign policy, it's the post-World War II framework that we set up with the UN and NATO that kind of made, was our response to everything that happened. And then domestically, we set up this administrative state, which solved a lot of problems, but has now run the risk of collapsing under its own weight, right? So we've got to cure ourselves of our nostalgia in my party and recognize that there's no going back.
I do think it's a bit unfair to say that about Republicans. There's a faction of Republicans I absolutely believe that about with the social order. But again, you go to Middle America, and then it was very eye-opening for me. I went to a city, I think it was Toledo in Ohio, where I was like, oh, I expected a city, and this place is like decaying. And anytime I made a joke about it at a show, they would like laugh so cathartically, like finally someone gets it. And I think when they hear Make America Great Again, I'm sure some people think about social order, but a lot of them are probably thinking, much like your town, we used to have the Studebaker or whatever here. We used to have manufacturing here. Bring that back.
Right.
The racial stuff, I don't care about that. I just want to make my city great again. That was what America was to me.
But to your point, like what we had to do when I was mayor of South Bend was to move on from that. And it wasn't saying like we're done with manufacturing, we're never going to make things anymore. It was saying we're not going. There's no such thing as going back to the Studebaker days.
I'm just touchy because I think for liberals, we often, well, I don't know, liberals often will say that about conservatives. Oh, they like the social order. And I feel that's a bit dismissive of their pain. And not that you are very good about, I just think there's a messaging issue in the way they're often talked about.
What is up with the selective sensitivity? This is the thing I don't like. You get this thing where we're supposed to be really sensitive to the plight of middle America. We're supposed to be really sensitive to the plight of manufacturers and to the plight of towns that lost, large assembly plants. It's like, okay, fine. But you guys are the least sensitive motherfuckers in the world. Like, why the fuck should anybody give a fuck about your decaying city when you're making jokes about how, like, all gay people are pedophiles or all trans people are rapists or, all black people want DEI? Like, there's no reciprocated sensitivity there. Like, why would you expect the other side to have any empathy or show any sympathy towards you when your whole shtick is being the facts over feelings, least empathetic crowd possible?
Sure. And we should come back to that. But I think if you look at the actual conservative governing plan, though, not the talk, not the campaigning, not the posturing, what they actually do.
Okay.
I would say the biggest social policy commitment that they've made that they actually care about to the point that they actually went through and kept it was to get rid of the right to choose. It's number one project of the Republican Party on the social side.
Yeah.
It's one of the few promises they actually kept.
Yeah, that's valid, yeah.
And then economically, the biggest promise they've actually kept is tax cuts for the rich. Biggest thing that he did in his first term. And right now, it's up for debate right now. Literally, Congress it's not getting as much attention because all the other crazy things going on. But it's more tax cuts for the rich and for corporations, right? So to me, like, most of the stuff he said he was going to do, he didn't actually do. He didn't do the big infrastructure bill he talked about.
Okay, I'm glad he circled back to this, because what the fuck do you guys give Trump credit for? What do you think he did?
We actually did it. He didn't even build the wall. That's the thing. Build the wall was like a galvanizing statement. It's not like he actually did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you.
2% of it. But I want to do something
You
we
guys
actually
need
follow
that.
through on, right?
Well, give me-
Galvanizing statements that's all bullshit is not good enough.
Give me
I
something.
think what
I'm saying is,
he's being hyperbolic. I can try to break
No,
it.
I'm
but
not. I'm
he's
being
saying
dead serious.
Speak to
I
people
think it's
at an
on the
emotional
bucket.
level,
Yeah.
even if it's not realistic.
Okay, so this brings us to the other thing that I think we've been
Right?
skirting around a
no,
little bit, right?
what I'm saying is, tell people if you want to help them,
Yeah.
say the thing that you think they need help with
Mm-hmm.
out loud. Directly.
Yeah.
And say that you're going to do it, and then endeavor to do it. We already expect you guys not to do it. So the least you could do is
I know you think raising taxes for the wealthy is stupid, but do you think the inverse of that is also you're retarded? You're gone. Bye. What a fucking retard. How I don't even know how you're alive in my chat.
fucking lie to me. You don't even lie to me. Like, have the decency. It's like, we're married, okay? You're out there cheating on me with Scandinavian. He's good. He's good. You're out there cheating me with Scandinavians, right? You don't have to throw it in my face. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least just do the decency of telling me the thing that I want to hear, and then endeavor to do it. Because right now, I don't know what is the platform? What is the Republicans did an amazing job of making the Democratic platform feel like this wasn't it at all. This was completely wrong, but they made it feel like we're going to let the school do whatever they want to your kids' balls.
Right.
That's
No, that was their message for sure.
And
And,
they-
they talked about more about that than they talked about the economy.
anything
College
else.
for
Than
They Them
anything
is one of the
else.
greatest political ads I've ever seen.
No
in my life.
question,
fantastic.
it was incredibly effective
Yeah.
because it made it sound like that was all we.
I feel like this ad was not as influential. Didn't we see was it the focus group people that talk about this? Ad was nowhere near as influential as people give it credit for. People act like this ad like single-handedly swung the election. I feel like it's just an ad that online people like to talk about a lot.
cared about.
And you didn't have a message of something that you cared about that was loud enough to refute that.
Or again, controversial enough to get people as excited. Because our
I don't
message
even
in a
know.
way is
What
like,
did you care about?
I want everyday life to be better.
That's what they want too.
You get up in the morning, yeah, but importantly, like all the controversies are over what that's like. Like I want you to be able to get up in the morning, and the first thing you do is you commute to work, and by the way, if you're on an EV, I want that to be affordable for you, or if you're on public transit, not to get back into the subway situation, but I want you to have good public transit to get to where you're going, and then when you get to that job, I want you to be paid well, and if you're about to have a kid, I want you to know that you're going to have parental leave when you have that kid, and if you don't want to have a kid, I want you to have the right to choose whether to have a kid, which means access to birth control and abortion, and those things that give you the
What's the Republican equivalent to this? I want to be able to send my kid to school and know there's not a trans drag queen author. I want my kid to take history and know that he's not spending too much time learning about slavery. And he knows that the Civil War was caused because of states' rights. I want my kid, when he's walking on his way home, to breathe in the good smell of gasoline like we used to and not hear the weird UFO sounds of electric vehicles everywhere. I want my kid to get home and see, my wife barefoot and pregnant, cooking for him. I want my kid to turn on the TV, and he's not seeing any weird PBS stuff or whatever. He's watching good old Glenn Beck and reruns of Rush Limbaugh. What's the conservative equivalent to this?
Freedom to decide on that. And if you already have a kid, when you pick them up at school, I want that school to be good, not having its funding slashed while they set fire to the Department of Education. And then when you get home, I want you to be in a neighborhood that is safe and where you can breathe the air, because we didn't let them get rid of the Clean Air Act. And you don't have to think for one moment.
Yeah, I don't know how that CI9 Dyer. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Destiny, if you're savvy enough to recognize these things as great political ads/political maneuvers, shouldn't you then have the ability to see through it? They're literally saying lie to me. Yeah, I don't know. People do this weird thing. I pointed this out before, where people will do this thing where they're like, they have a meta-analysis of a thing, and they say the meta-analysis is like, this is really good at tricking people. But then when they leave the meta-analysis, they act like they're being tricked. And I don't understand that analysis. I don't get it. I don't know. It's like, okay. It's really weird to me.
About whether the air you breathe or the water you drink is clean and clear, which actually takes a lot, because it means the government has to constrain those actors that would make you unfree by polluting the air and polluting the water. And then when you go to bed, I want you to know that your family's going to be fine, even if it's family like mine, despite there being some Supreme Court justice who wants to obliterate your family because it doesn't match his interpretation of his religion. Like, that's the life I want everybody to be able to live.
Yeah, I think
we can deliver that.
That's
that's
promo.
fine.
That's your promo for when you
Listen.
I
liked hearing that. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was beautiful. I know you want that. Tell me that it's gonna happen. We can make it. And then how is it going to happen? Like, that's the difference between, like, it's build the wall, and I keep harping on this, but I think it's important for Democrats to understand the effectiveness of that statement. Build the wall wasn't even about build the wall.
Right.
It's an idea.
It was an idea that satisfied a concern that people felt. So what are your ideas that are going to satisfy the concern? What you just told me are all these things that I also want. So now we're together. We both want the same things. But you didn't give me the solution to the feeling that I have. I too want a safe home. You didn't say security guard outside of your door every night, or whatever bullshit, you know what I mean? If it's more police on the street, whatever the thing is, punish petty crimes, whatever the thing is. So, and I think that there's a lot of Americans that are at the end of their hope, right? And they feel really disillusioned, and they feel this lack of trust that we've spoken about today, and simply wanting things that they want isn't enough. And I think that's when you said, like, current circumstances lead to a Trump victory. It's not like Trump populism. I think there was a rejection of the establishment for a lot of people. And then hearing from Kamala that she wasn't really going to do anything differently, I think that was a big mistake, because I think people wanted a change. So I think that's something that you guys should endeavor to do is tell us specifically what you're going to do that satisfies those things we're feeling. It seems you know exactly what we're feeling, because that was beautiful. I think all of us were like, yo, you just hit it, you knocked out the park. But I need the statements that are going to satisfy those feelings, because that's what gets people to sway over. And that's what they're fucking good at.
Yeah, the bumper sticker.
They are, so what's a Democratic bumper sticker?
I'm working on it.
Fair enough. But that is the important.
And I think people need to know that we see them and we don't see them as the problem, right? Because I do think, to the finger wagging point, so much of politics is about what people think you think of them, or how you make people feel about themselves. Before people even start to decide what they think about you, they're thinking about how you make them feel about themselves. And this is a struggle, especially because I belong to a party that has deep moral convictions. And you could argue we take it too far, whatever, but like, we are propelled by a lot of deep moral convictions, whether we're talking about an economy where we think that it's too easy for the wealthy and too hard to work your way up, or whether we're talking about a society where we're worried about
marginalized
racial
groups.
Justice and marginalized groups, right? But there is a way to engage people who don't start with where you can't lead people to where they already are anyway. Like, one thing I think about a lot is right around the time I came out, which is like a terrifying thing to do as a elected official in Indiana, right?
This was after you got back from Afghanistan.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It was after
What happened? What did you eat out there?
Fucking epic.
No, honestly, what happened was, when you get deployed, they tell you to write a letter. And I still have it in a drawer somewhere. And it's the letter, it just says just in case on the outside.
Wow.
And it's everything that you want your loved ones to know, from your internet passwords to like how you feel your life went, right? Everybody should do this, by the way. You shouldn't have to wait to be sent to war to do this.
Yeah.
And I was sitting mayor of my hometown, because I was a reservist. So I got deployed while I was in office, and I just took a leave, stopped being mayor, started being a lieutenant, and went into my other job, basically. Wow. So I was the sitting mayor of my hometown. I had a beautiful house. I had good friends. I had like a good life. And that was part of what I wrote about in that letter. But in the back of my head, I'm thinking, all right, but I'm a grown-ass man in a position of responsibility. And I don't actually know what it's like to be in love. And if I get back, I'm not going to let that continue. Like, whatever the implications, I'd rather deal with that than once again contemplate the idea that I could go to my grave not knowing what it's like to be in love.
That's crazy.
So then, it was awkward timing, because it's actually the middle of a re-election. But I took some time, I took months to think through, okay, how do I do this? How do I say this? Like, what is that? And then one day I did it. I wrote a little op-ed in the local paper. I said, I don't think this should be anybody's business, but I know it's a thing. Here's something you should know about me.
Gay.
And it was fine. I mean, it wasn't fine. There were,
people upset.
There was some ugliness around it. But nothing ever happened that made me regret that I did it. But the story I was starting to tell was that sometime after that, when I started dating Chasten, maybe, I don't know, some months.
Did he
after
jump
that.
on that immediately? Was he like, oh hell yeah? Did he like slide into the DMs? He was like, he's. You know what I mean? Like, was that quick afterwards?
No, I found him. Well, we were on. It was like it was Hinge, the dating app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't Grindr.
Grinders for Republicans.
I know everybody thinks
Wait, is Lindsey Graham actually gay? I feel like this is like a rumor, or I feel like people talk about this. Is it actually true? Does it?
We do need to talk about why every time the RNC happens, Grindr explodes. I'm just saying. Out him.
Seems like a lot of letters need to be written.
They don't serve.
So, anyway, I met him, fall in love, start dating, and this I run into this woman I know, I think in the lobby of the County City building. I'm walking into work. I know she's a little more conservative. And she comes up and she says, I ran into your friend, and he's wonderful.
Oh.
And it was one of those moments, right, where like, I think it was very important that the thing to recognize is like, for her, she was signaling something pretty big for her.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know exactly, but I can guess like how she thought about and talked about gay people probably all her life. But she knew me, she met him, he's wonderful. Like,
Yeah.
right? Versus if I like treated her to a lecture on the difference between a friend and a partner, right?
Yeah.
You know, that would have pushed her right back into the arms of
Yeah.
these people who don't
That's a
want
great
anything
point.
good for like me. So what I take from that is this broader process that needs to go on, where we find people, and as passionate as we are, and as right as I believe we are about the big things, even though I'm open to the fact that we may not be right about everything.
We're right about everything.
We're not telling people that they are bigoted or racist or whatever, because they don't already start out in the same place that we are. Right? There has to be that process of kind of inviting people to look at things the way we look at things, versus commanding them to. And I think that is something that in the culture of my party has been especially challenging in the last like 10 or 20 years. But that we need to work through, because again, politics is about persuasion. It's about finding people where they are. It's about how they feel about themselves. I think there is a desire for belonging that is not just something liberals care about. I actually think the loss of belonging that happens in a town like where I grew up, when you lose your auto job and the Workforce Development Agency comes along and says, good news, I found a job that you can get qualified for based on your education, and it pays just as much, and you're going to be a nursing assistant.
Yeah.
And like, maybe that's a perfectly good job, obviously, but like, if the last 20 years of your life have been about not just the way you make your money, but the way you see where you fit in the world, is about what you know how to do in a machine shop. And some well-intentioned person with a clipboard is telling you, guess what, now you get to be a nursing assistant.
Yeah.
Like, that is not finding people where they are. That's not because something has happened to their sense of belonging. And
Is Pete being the useful weak Dem the thing you regretted? No. But I don't think I regret playing that role on like neutral-ish platforms. Like, I don't view these guys as being quite as malicious. They're definitely not on the level as like the Daily Wire, because they're not like hardcore political operatives. And I don't think they're quite as like brainwashed as Joe Rogan. So I would view these guys differently. Yeah.
we really care about belonging, maybe to a fault, but like, we try to make sure that there is room for everybody at the table in society and in different processes and in our politics. But if we really take that seriously, like if we really live up to that, that means recognizing that some crises are...
Please stop asking about 2028. Oh my God, it's such a boring question. Do you think Pete could be a serious 2028 contender? I have no idea. No one knows, bro. It's 4 years away. No one has any fucking idea. Nobody knows. Anybody who says anything is the most worthless speculation. I'd rather cover breaking news, okay, with a 7-inch diameter sounding rod down my cock. Please. Oh my God, I have no clue. Stop.
Around belonging are a big part of why some people, many of whom voted for the other guy this last time, are really prepared to just burn the house down and think that's no worse than any of the other things that could happen.
So including them in those groups of people that you are looking out for.
Yeah, and meaning it.
And meaning,
Like,
yeah.
You can't
Not
really
doing
be
it in a
persuasive about
patronizing
them
way.
unless you actually mean it.
Yeah, I think that there's a really beautiful story about giving that woman grace.
Yeah.
And choosing maybe to not correct her and understanding. Now, you had the benefit of having a relationship with that person and understanding maybe how difficult it was for her to even come there. And you both had this amazing experience where you connected with people as individuals before you knew things about each other that might create some separation, which is kind of a really awesome thing about the human spirit. It's like, once I kind of know who you are as a dude or a chick, and like these other things in your life, all of a sudden I have a little bit more empathy for or understanding, or at least want to understand, because I like who you are. But what a great experiment. How do we get to that point? And how do Republicans also do that? Like, this is something I've been... every time I go on like a really conservative podcast, the trans discussion comes up, and then like, what I've tried to explain, at least from my perspective, is like both sides are trying to protect kids. They just think the protection is different, right? And I imagine like the most benevolent part of the left is going, hey, these kids might be suffering in the wrong body, and their parents might not create a space for them at home where they can like be their true selves. And then parents on the right go, hey, I don't want to be in second place for the decisions made about my kid to the school. Like, I don't even know the principal. Why are they like, and I have empathy for that too. And how do we get to a point where we're not constantly trying to dunk on one another? And we're actually trying to, like you said, meet people where they are. Like, well, how do we do that as a country
you
in
said
general?
It, like the key word there is the empathy, right? The like understanding. So I think you put it really well. Like having empathy for parents or students who are in that position, which is terrifying, of belonging to one of the most tiny and kind of harassed minorities that there is in the country, but also empathy for people who sincerely want to make sure that sports are safe and fair, and want to make sure that they have the most important say in what's happening in deciding what's best for their children. Like that, these are like very human things that, if you strip away all the layers of the politics of it, come from a place of very understandable concern and like humanity, right?
There is humanity in both positions. And I think that's lost in the dialogue sometimes.
Yes, which brings us in some ways back to the algorithms. So I think a big part of the answer to your question is offline. There have to be spaces that are offline, or at least that are not like shaped by algorithms, where these conversations happen. Because to your point, if all I know about you is that you're, some random account on Twitter or shitposting like something I really care about, then I'm going to assume you're an asshole. But if I know you, and then we discover that like we view these things in different ways, we're away from the keyboards, right? Then it's a completely different conversation. And I really worry, and sometimes this is coded as like a conservative worry, but I think liberals should be just as worried about it, about things like neighborhoods and faith communities and other sources of belonging and meaning that overlap the different political commitments that we have. Because it's in those spaces. I mean, again, I think back to the military. Like, if I was getting in a vehicle to go outside the wire, like the other people getting in the vehicle with me definitely did not care if I was a Republican or a Democrat, or like what country my dad immigrated from.
I would.
Or if I was going home to a girlfriend.
I wouldn't help the Republican soldiers.
I'm really excited for the next hour. We're going to talk about Malta, by the way.
I cannot wait.
Like, all they wanted to know, obviously, was that they could trust me to do my job. Same thing, vice versa, because we were trusting each other with our lives
100%.
every time we went outside the wire. And to be clear, I was not into like a combat or maneuver. My job was just to like drive them safely to where they needed to go. But that could be scary.
That does have risk.
Not that everybody should be in the military, but like everybody should be in environments where you know people as people first. We start this way. We grow up, families are like this.
Sports, a lot of times.
Sport,
if you're part of team sports, it's like this. I agree with you 1,000,000%.
You know how somebody handles themselves in a tough situation, and then you find out like how each of you comes in something. Right? That's just such a more honest and human and ultimately respectful and decent process of encounter.
It's amazing how understanding we can be when we have that type of relationship built first.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's take a break for a second. It's time to stop wearing these baggy, ill-fitting tees or hoodies. The essentials. Get your essentials right. Make sure that undershirt.
I feel like question about 28 are reasonable here. This is a case of campaigning, isn't it? And fairly unconventional. No one campaigns 4 years ahead of time. Just don't go talk about it somewhere else. I can't think of a more boring subject than in 2025 talking about who you think is going to be president 4 years from now. It's like the conversation, like, what do you think computers are going to look like in 2035? There's like so many other places to talk about that. Holy fuck.
Fits you lovely.
Stop.
Okay? The way that you're going to do that is rocking with True Classic. True Classic has one mission. Make sure guys look good and feel better. They've nailed it. Fit, feel, and price across your entire wardrobe. Not just tees, but hoodies, jeans, activewear, everything you need to level up your everyday style. Don't let your whole fit get ruined by an ill-fitting t-shirt. True Classic isn't just about the clothes, by the way. Their brand DNA is built on being highly intentional in everything they do, from creating high-quality essentials to delivering amazing customer service to giving back to the communities they believe in. Every detail is done with purpose. We've been wearing True Classic for a while now. And from the first piece that I put on, I knew it was different. Snug where you want it, relaxed where you need it. No weird bunching, no awkward tight spots. Just a clean, effortless fit that won't ruin your fit. Forget overpriced designer nonsense. Skip the cheap throwaways. True Classic delivers premium essentials built for real life. Grab yours at Target or Costco or head to trueclassic.com/flagrant to get hooked up today. Now let's get back to the show. All right, guys, let's take a break for a second because this podcast has been brought to you by Squarespace. Shout out to Squarespace, man.
Shout
the
out.
Absolute GOAT has been rocking with me for over a decade. If you have a company and you need a place for it online, it's simple as that. An Instagram page isn't just going to do it. You need a website. I need to go to a website to believe you have something real. Bare minimum, and Squarespace is the place where you're going to go create that. They make it easy to make a beautiful website to help you engage with your audience, sell anything from products to content to time, and do it all on your own terms.
They do.
Now,
They do a lot of ads on these shows now.
Squarespace does. They make it the website creation so easy. The other things I just mentioned, the fact that they have payments processing, the fact that you could sell actual items, you could even sell your time. These are fantastic things, but it is a daunting process to go make your own website. Squarespace has completely taken that over. They've been doing it at the top of the game for a decade now. Okay? Onboarding is super fast and simple. You can get started in just a few clicks, and you can start receiving payments right away. Plus, you can give your customers more ways to pay with popular payment methods like Klarna, ACH, Direct Deposit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay. Also, Design Intelligence from Squarespace uses cutting-edge AI technology to unlock your strongest creative potential. Design Intelligence empowers anyone to build a beautiful, more personalized website tailored to their unique needs and craft a bespoke digital identity to use across one's entire online presence.
Wow.
And last but not least, Squarespace can help you with SEO. Every Squarespace website is optimized to be indexed with meta descriptions and an auto-generated sitemap and more, so you show up more often to more people in global search engine results. So go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use our code at squarespace.com/flagrant to save 10% off your first purchase of a website domain. Let's get back to the show. Like, when you came out, did you speak to any of your military brethren, and how did they feel about it?
Yeah, and some of them, like, I gotta tell you, like, when I got to my unit, and by then, like, I wasn't out, but I, like, knew that I was gay, obviously.
Yeah.
What?
You know,
Is that what he meant by come out?
The gay jokes are flying around, right?
Yeah.
Like, all the way down to, like, oh man, that like memo that just came down from the command. Is that the gayest thing you've ever seen? Like, Sergeant, what's the gayest thing you've ever seen? This is even gayer than that, right?
Like that.
I don't know. To me, it sounded kind of retro, but that was definitely how people were talking. You know,
We don't do that, guys.
2014. when I was out there.
Children, lower intelligence.
But like, those seemed like, you know, they were all like fine. Like, they either made it clear that they didn't care, or they found some excuse, like, unrelated to anything, to like check on how I was doing, right?
But that's endearing too, because you know that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then a couple people, it turned out, including somebody who I like turned to more than once to volunteer for outside the wire drives that he didn't have to do with me. But I needed somebody else who was qualified on a long gun. Turned out he was in the same boat. I never knew.
So you vampired him.
It's not contagious. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe he got me.
I don't know what to He did have the long gun. Hey! No. Okay, so wow. So
yeah,
he was.
so like,
Yeah.
but to feel like we knew each other, we trusted each other, we understood each other. Something
Yeah.
we like went and suddenly agreed about politics. Like some of the people I served with were like super conservative and still are, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, we kind of, you know, that wasn't like central because we knew each other.
Yeah.
Like at a human level.
And you built that trust up with them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we
you're-
did something
yeah.
hard together, right?
Yeah.
That's so interesting because I feel like you're in a unique position to see both sides. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like there's a perception from many people on the left, like, oh, these conservatives are racist and homophobes and da-da-da.
They are.
Where I think many of them, at least like, my family and all my friends in Florida that identify as conservative, they don't really care about, their friend being gay, or like living in communities with like, multi-ethnic backgrounds.
Yeah.
It's not pressing for them. And sometimes they will say things that are problematic.
Remy, this is an incredibly intricate question. I have no idea what the answer to that is. This is like an accounting question. I don't know if there's a clear yes or no in terms of if you grant somebody stock, do you get to report on your taxes like the full amount when they cash it out or the investment in it? I don't know why you even care about my opinion about that. I have no concept of what the accounting purposes look like on both sides of that. I don't even know if this will make a significant difference in tax. I have no idea why you're asking me this hyper ultra specific question. Remy, one of the things I wondered when I went to UNO, they had a huge particle accelerator. I didn't know if they had the quantum Floria Muxian set to 0.5 or if they should normally have it set to 0.4 because even though it's a slower result, it uses 50 gigakilojoules of coolant less. Do you have any idea like what the proper I don't have any fucking idea what the answer to that question is. Jesus
like,
Christ.
yeah, I don't care if my friends are gay, but like, don't make my kids.
I am on 3 hours of sleep. Don't trigger me, okay? You know what? One person from each chat is getting a one-day ban because of you. You're boom. That's guys one day. Who are you? KBTGI. You're one-day banned. Oh, I don't know. Oh, timeout for one day. And YouTubers, you're lucky. I don't know how to time ban you guys. It's just permabans. Okay? Every time somebody pisses me off, I'm going to ban one person from each of my 2 chat rooms. Okay? So stop asking me stupid questions. Stop it!
Gay, which obviously is a problematic idea.
Yeah.
But the core of what they're saying, I think the feeling
You guys are
that
being
comes
problematic.
through, you're able to sort of, understand in a way that I think a lot of people on the left don't. Because they hear that and they go, no, well, you shouldn't say that. But you can kind of be in a position to say, well, no, I understand what he's trying to say. He's just not saying it properly.
It's almost like you treat everybody like a grandparent at first.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how like your granddad could say something really fucked up, but like
Stock grants are reported as income. No, yeah, I understand. But this guy's asking the question of, apparently there's an accounting thing where when you grant somebody a stock, you don't count as income. You don't count as an expense when you grant them it. You count it when they're fully vested. And he's asking if that, I guess he's asking if that's an appropriate loophole or something, but I don't know even what the correct way to do that accounting is. So like if I say, oh, here you go, you get 10 shares of DGG and that they're worth $10 each, but then in 3 years when you're fully vested, they're worth $1 million each. When they get that full vestment, I get to write off on my expenses the full vestment of that. But that makes sense to me because I'm pretty sure that makes sense because that's probably when they get it as income. That'd be my guess, right? So it has to balance on both sides. So but I don't know why he's asking me this hyper ultra specific question about when the vestment versus the allotment period counts for. I have no idea why I'm being asked this question. Okay, I don't know.
he comes from a
Jesus.
good place.
Yeah, and you love him.
And you love it. And then eventually, after meeting your friend who's Asian, and you convince him that he's not Vietnamese, and you're like, and then he's like, oh, I love this guy.
He still says Oriental. And you're
Exactly.
like, all right.
It's not the exact words, but there's love there and empathy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so can I just ask you, are you familiar with white boy fun?
No.
This term? Okay. So this is when straight guys pretend to be gay with each other.
Straight white guys. Too.
Straight white guys. Black guys are just getting on it, and they're doing really good. They're like really coming around. Al's
Usually happens.
you
Basketball,
get a little bit late, and then you take it to the next level, and they're going to completely dominate it. But okay, so did you never see any of that in the military where guys would like do little gay jokes with each other and that kind of stuff? Like,
vaguely. I mean, that's like half of middle school humor, like as a general rule, right?
Also, just like in your 40s, whatever. Yeah. And, but okay. So like during this time, and it's not like to me, it's not like shrouded in like any like hatred for gays. It's more about just like how can I do something that potentially makes trolls my friend or makes him feel uncomfortable in this moment, right? Are you ever in those scenarios, and at this time you know you're gay, but you're not out, and then they're doing this game with you, where like, oh, I'm gonna make Pete feel so uncomfortable, and you're like, joke's on you. This is so weird, guys.
This is the gayest question I've ever heard in my entire life. Sorry.
Not really, no. But I know like that. Yeah, that happens to a lot of people. Who are like in this situation where like there's this assumption, just like one of the few minorities that like.
You ever have this thing where like where a guy comes up to you and he's like bro, can I suck your dick? And it's like so weird, right? You ever have people like joke with you that way, and then but like they don't even know you're gay, and they're like halfway through sucking your dick, and then you reveal it and they're like, oh bro, you got me, like, and he's like, no, not really.
It's not obvious to everybody whether you're part of that minority, right?
Yeah.
Unless you decide to tell people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely know that like that kind of thing. Can
Bro
happen,
job, true.
I can't, off the top of my head, think of an encounter like that.
Of those things. Yeah. Okay. All right. You finally come out.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm glad we waited to the end of the episode to talk about this, because I have so many questions about it, given your situations in life. But I didn't want to feel reductive, like this was your whole identity. I actually kind of wanted to get to know you before I asked about two things, which is ironic we're having this conversation right now. But like, okay, so you come out, like, scariest thing, you've been at war. You know what I mean? Like, is it more terrifying than doing a drive where an IUD could go off? And like,
wait, real quick, is it not possible to request like partial rockets? Does there have to be enough to fill the whole rocket? Is there no way to request like a partial, or?
What is the fear level?
I have my blood pumping just as much, for sure.
Oh,
even when it's not totally rational.
yeah.
Telling my parents was not easy. And I had it way easier than most people. My parents were like very loving and very kind of socially liberal. Like it was not actually a problem.
Did they know, or were they
surprised?
They didn't. If they knew, they didn't say anything. I think they noticed at a certain point that I wasn't bringing girlfriends around. And like,
Yeah.
Did you?
sure,
are you?
like, they were
Are you
stupid.
like gold
That's
star
all
or
you in
platinum?
chat,
Like,
guys.
Do you know about these?
Oh, right. No, yeah,
Yeah,
Cheston tried to explain this to me once.
I feel like you're still learning how to be gay.
I'm not like the best representative of my people. No, I'm not. No, I'm
Gold.
not.
Okay, so you've
Wait, what's platinum?
So platinum is you come out C-section, so you never even touch a vagina.
No, I'm neither gold nor platinum.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so in that process,
That's really a thing. Like I go all the way back to.
I mean, listen, these are what my gays tell me. My gays tell me these things, so I gotta know. So okay, so in this process, like you're dating girls, you're like, I don't really know. At what point are you like, okay, I'm definitely gay, and is there a part of you where like I have these aspirations to do these other things in my life, and this isn't my entire identity? Are you going in that moment? Do I stuff this down? Have you accepted it, or have you not accepted
you're
it?
running from mayor in the closet.
Yeah, my entire 20s were like this. Like, because by then, like, I really, really wanted to not be gay, right? Because, I mean, separate and apart from wanting to have a life in public service, like I grew up in Indiana, like I don't think most gay kids growing up in Indiana in the 90s, like, if you really gave them a choice, right?
Oh, you know what? I'm just kidding. I'm gonna Red Bull. Every day Hassan molds. His beard gets grayer, and my beard is absorbing energy from his. I can feel it. We just have to keep it molded, okay?
Absolutely.
And so part of that was like, okay, like I dated this like string of amazing women, and like over time, like it was just very clear, as amazing as they were, that like the things that are supposed to happen in terms of the way you feel about and fall in love with somebody, like that's, you know, I'm not saying it's just process of elimination. Like there are other ways you,
of course,
know who you're attracted to, but like you can pack that away.
God,
like you pack
once you
that
came out, you
way
must
away.
have made them feel so good.
Why does he use? Okay.
Right? Because they got over that rejection or whatever.
I mean, yeah, they all did. Yeah, well, I mean,
you're the only guy who was like, it was me, and told the truth.
But I knew actually, before I became like years before the Afghanistan deployment coming out and all that, my first election, I won the primary, and the way things were shaping up, I knew that I would probably win the general election. I was probably going to be mayor, and that was like a huge leap in responsibility. Obviously, I had been like a consultant, and you know, I was a military.
You're young too. You're like 28
29 when I got elected. 29, yeah, 28, 29. Oh, sorry. So I knew that like I should not be in a position of that kind of responsibility unless I've like resolved this in some way. And if I'm not ready to come out to the world, I got to come out to somebody, because that's the best way I can come out to myself, right? If I've like just told even one person, then it's kind of real, and I'm no longer kind of like in that fog mentally. And so I like took a deep breath, and just a good buddy of mine from over the years, one of my best friends over beers, and I'm just like, look, I gotta tell you something. And one of the first things he said, he kind of patted me on the shoulder and said, you know, you
do it. I'm not into you like this.
And he was straight. But he said, like, you didn't exactly make it easy on yourself. And what he meant was that
that's so kind.
My, you know, my career, to the extent I had a career, there were two parts to it, right? There was the majority of it, which was
Okay, hold on. This was that was a genuinely funny quip, and nobody laughed. Fuck you guys. Okay, most of the clips on the show have not been that funny. Not as funny as people laughing. That was a decently funny quip, and nobody gave a fuck. These guys are racist.
Public office in Indiana.
Yeah.
And there was the other part, which was service in the military as a reservist. And by the way, that was still don't ask, don't tell back then too, right? So I could literally be fired.
Oh yeah.
Which is another reason I didn't come out too quickly. Anyway, it was that process of like just coming to terms with that and just knowing, even if I wasn't ready to tell everybody or like deal with everything that went with it. And in my case, that meant I wasn't going to start dating either, because I didn't want to be like hiding a boyfriend, or like that just seemed really unhealthy. And you know, I was so invested in my work that for a while I wasn't missing. I mean, I don't want to say I wasn't missing much. I didn't feel that I was missing a lot. Yeah. Because I had this, I used to joke that like the city was a jealous bride, you know? And then it was we talked about my deployment experience that put me over the edge.
When did you first start to think, oh, okay, I might be gay? And then what was the gap between that and being like, I can't hide this, I can't compartmentalize this is what it is? And what are you going through mentally and emotionally in that time?
I mean, there's years and years and years of that, right? Like, I mean, at some level when you're a teenager, like there's some pretty strong data points, right?
Yeah.
But the things you can tell yourself, if you really want something to not be true, the things you can tell yourself to try to make it not be true are pretty powerful, right? I mean, you know, you can tell yourself, like everybody, you know, at like 14 or 15, every dude you know seems like they want to nail anything that moves, right? So like you can convince yourself like, oh, it's just like everybody's all over the place, and I'm just like, you know, and then like you start noticing like more of a pattern.
Why do you start making Miles noises?
And then like you start noticing like more of a pattern, especially when you're dating women, and it's like not. And there's a lot of extrapolating, right? You're like watching like a straight love story, and you're like trying to like relate to it, but like it just doesn't quite land, right?
It's funny.
This is what I get. I've had this more and more in my life. Like I'm seeing like either porn or women, and I'm like, what was the appeal? I've been lying to myself the whole time. These bitches suck. I'm just kidding. Video game.
And yeah, I think by the time I was like, you know, mid to late 20s, I was like, okay, I can't. First of all, I can't like waste women's time or mine. Yeah. Messing around, like hoping that somehow I'm like
those are valuable years
less
for
gay, right? Yeah. Like, because like that, there's a point where like that's not a fair thing to do to somebody.
100%.
And also like wasting my time, and you know.
That's crazy. You've dated more women than me.
Yes.
Yeah, these guys have only been with one woman each.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're straighter kind of in a lot of ways.
And then, fast forward just a little bit. So now you're happy, you're out, you're in a relationship, and then you choose to adopt twins.
Yeah.
Black twins, respect.
Stolen?
How has fatherhood been?
Wait, did they really adopt black twins? Holy shit. Holy shit, that's hardcore. God damn. Wait, really? Damn. Okay.
Crazy. Like nothing I have ever attempted.
They're mixed? We Nazis here, bro. We one dropping it, okay? They're mixed, they're black.
Or done has come anywhere close, has been as rewarding or as hard. Like I knew it would be more rewarding based on what everybody said. I mean, you never really know, right? Until it's you. I didn't understand how hard it would be. I didn't understand how physically hard it would be, like in those first weeks. And I say, obviously, you know,
I can't listen to these conversations, dude. Fuck
things
me.
differently. Like I didn't have to, like, you know, neither one of us had to go into labor. But just the first few weeks where like they tell you they need to feed every 3 hours or so, right?
Yeah.
They don't mention that that means they need to start to feed every 3 hours.
Oh,
right?
yeah. You got it.
And our daughter had this reflex thing where you couldn't really lay her down after feeding her.
Yeah.
So it was really like at least an hour and a half upright. And anything else you want to do.
God damn, Nathan was such a fucking regular, like scheduled baby. It was like every 4 hours, it was wake up, feed him, burp him, change him, take a nap. It was like a 30-minute thing, I think. He's wake up, feed him, burp him, change him, put him down. And that was it. So regular. No celiacs, no crying, no bullshit.
Oh. You have to do in between, like
the one fucked up thing he ever did was one time when Rachel went to get him, he fucking scratched her eye. And it seemed like a meme, but she was like screeching. It was like bad. And we'd been engaged in a physical combat to know that if it hurts, it must be some fucked up shit. And he'd like scraped off part of her cornea or something. Cornea? Oof, he got her good. Damn.
Right. And anything else you want to do, you have to do in between. Like you start the clock, you're feeding them, and there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
And you got the bottles. We had this like contraption, this like pillow you could use to actually bottle feed 2 twins at once, which was amazing.
There's like fake breast type
no, there's this like, I don't even know if that's a real thing or not. There's this like fake image that goes around online of me with one of these like contraptions, which I didn't know it existed. I don't know if it's a real thing or just someone being a dick. But but no,
wait, I don't know if the picture is real. I don't know if the device or the contraption is real. What? Did he mean colic and not celiac? Oh yeah, I think so. Colic. There's like the name of a disease when babies cry all the time. It sounds like a fake thing, but I think it's real because I thought it was fake, and then I looked at it. I think it's real. I don't even know if it's a disease or just like a syndrome. Like some babies just fucking cry all the time, a lot, and oof, I feel real bad. It feels really bad when you have a baby that is crying. I feel like there are 2 things. I feel like it feels bad when your baby is crying and it won't stop. It just feels bad because you feel like a failure of a parent and you feel like you're not providing or something is just not working. You're like broken. And I'm sure for moms that feeling is probably even worse. But then there's also the fact that I feel like babies are kind of like dogs in that no matter how upset a baby is, if a new person like picks them up, assuming it's not like a retard, it's somebody who knows how to deal with babies, the baby will always be happy. And then you feel like even more of a piece of shit because it's like, oh God, I'm so worthless. I sent my mom to daycare. I love kids. I love babies. So I can pick up and play with any baby. If you know what I mean. Yeah, woo, yeah. But so I could tell sometimes that other people would feel like, not like upset, but just a little shitty that like a stranger, especially a guy, I guess, could pick up their baby and the baby would be like so animated and stuff. But it's just because the baby sees like a new person. And if you like make goofy faces or if you open your eyes, like the baby just goes crazy. Like it doesn't matter. They just like new people. I'm glad Nathan was like a regular scheduled baby and there was no weird shit.
Oh yeah, this is like a whole thing. There's like these right-wing account. It's like this like contraption.
Like fake breasts, like a mechanism with fake.
Yeah, maybe that is a thing. I don't know, but like
seems,
no, I just use like bottles, like you might expect. And that was just like the first few weeks and months, and then both of them had some medical challenges early on. The one of them had an extremely serious medical problem, which he recovered from. And that was the most terrifying thing in my life. And then, and it's hard to believe because we were fighting. They were also kind of early or premature. It's not unusual with twins, but especially in their case. And we fought so hard just to get them on the chart. Like you would count down to the milliliter. like how much food they're taking, how much they're taking. And now, like, they're just like wolfing down. He'll like take one of those Uncrustables. Their kids are 3.5 now.
Yeah.
Our son will take one of those Uncrustables and just the entire thing.
One bite.
And I'm thinking, like, how in this short of a time has that happened? And just every day there's this new challenge, and you have to like relate.
Don't put that Esther on your AR. I am. I hope you're the one that emailed me who was mad too and said I'm going to break it. And I will put it on there until it breaks, and then I'll buy a different one, okay? Suck my dick.
To what is a big deal to them, which is even harder than relating to somebody on the opposite end of the political spectrum, right? Because like you have to, obviously part of your job is to like teach them what does and doesn't matter and what to care about. But the other day, just 2 days ago, our son came into the kitchen and he was playing out on this little deck that we have. It's a wooden deck. And he says, Papa, I need a Band-Aid. I got a boo-boo. And I'm like, oh, show me. And he like lifts up at his foot, and it's clear that what he's actually got is a splinter. And he has like some idea of what a splinter is, but not really. And then Chasten and I Chasten kind of was more on the ball than I was as usual, and like starts preparing like a thing of warm water to soak his foot in to try to help work it out. And then that doesn't exactly like do anything right away. And plus it starts hurting. And by the time we got to the tweezers, it was like a Civil War amputation, like to him.
I remember. Give him the whiskey. He used to kill me. Oh God! I was such a baby about it. You gotta get deep in there, pull that stuff.
And it sounds like comical now, but like to him, it might as well be. Like he's 3, he doesn't know, right? Yeah. It's terrifying.
Fuck. I still complain about this, right? I just, for whatever reason, I'm just a big baby when it comes to eye stuff. I remember when I got pink eye when I was like 6 or 7, 8 or 9. I don't remember. The Esther would be so much better on your Alien instead of the R. The Alien literally is a built-on scope. I don't know who makes it, but why would I swap it? Number one, we need to stop making lists. I think I do a lot of things where I'm like, okay, number one, and then but I don't actually make any more of the list. It's just, I just say one. I think I say one in case I have more things to rattle up. I don't even know if I remember to say numbers after that. Regardless, okay. I needed eye drops or something because I had pink eye or whatever as a kid, and there were like 4 people that my grandma had to get to hold me down because I fucking hated eye drops so much. It was the worst experience in the world. Fuck me.
Terrifying for him, and like I'm trying to hold him because he's also a moving target, and Chasten's got the tweezers, and then we're both starting to feel this guilt about like, is one of his foundational memories going to be, us like holding him while he's like shrieking in pain and afraid, and then
what a dumb fuck. Or I guess it's not his fault, maybe because they're gay, they don't know so much about kids. Kids don't start forming memories until they're like 5 years old, I think, right? Isn't that what we learned? Is it 5?
As the splinter comes out, and Chasten's like, I got it, it's out. He's like weeping, shrieking, he goes, thank you.
Yeah. So cute.
And there's just these moments you just can't script, like you can't see them coming. And every day it's like some new challenge. Our daughter loves asking me now about my work. Which is,
you would hate contacts, dude. I can't stand watching anybody like putting in or taking out contacts. Oh my God, that shit is excruciating and gross. You guys are broken people.
Actually a really healthy way to be forced to explain what I do all day. So this started happening when I was secretary. Like I put her down at bedtime. There's a whole bedtime ritual. This is coming your way. How old is your
14 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're getting there where like talk about like the Administrative Procedures Act was one thing when I was trying to build a bridge, but like just to like extract myself from the room, it's like, did you tell the neighbors to be quiet? Yes. Yes, Penelope, I told the neighbors to be quiet. And then Gus is like, are you going to scare away the dinos? I was like, yes, if any dinos come here, I'm going to scare them away. And there's this like whole like ritual checklist you got to go through, right? But as part of it, she's like, tell me your work. And I remember asking her like, after she said it 2 or 3 times at bedtime, like, does people doing drugs intravenously make you feel icky? Yeah, I actually think I have a really big bias against like delivery mechanism for drugs. Like I don't think honest to God, the biggest thing that's kept me off of cocaine or trying it is I just don't like the idea of snorting anything. It looks gross. It sounds gross. Ugh, I bet it feels gross. I don't think I would do anything by needle. I don't know if I would do anything of just snort. I even don't like smoking stuff. I don't know. I'm just a baby. Does me talking about my job like help you go to sleep? And she says, yeah. And the first time
curiosity is so
like,
is such a good trait, though.
Yeah, you want to nurture that, and you want them to relate to what you do. So the first time I was thinking, like, well, tomorrow I'm testifying in the Appropriations Committee, and then I got to make sure that we get this regulation out. Like, that probably doesn't make sense to. But then gradually I realized I could say, like, I'm gonna make the airplanes safer tomorrow, or like, there's a bridge that broke, and I'm.
He should have started repeating the stuff that he said on the show, and he'd be like, "Yeah, I talked to you guys like I talked to my fucking 3-year-old."
I'm gonna help make the bridge, get the bridge back together. And she relates. She's like, "Are you bringing tape?" No, actually, this one's even too big for tape. It's like, "Oh, a hammer." I was like, "Yeah, some hammers are definitely going to be involved." And having to explain what you do to a 3-year-old is actually a pretty good exercise in thinking about what really is important.
Podcast.
Talking to Americans.
It's hard.
I like that.
Like now, so I teach a day a week. I teach at the University of Chicago, and so I realized I could explain that to her. She's like, "Tell me your work." I'm like, well, I'm a teacher for grown-ups. And she thought about it for a while, and she said, but I thought you were our papa. I was like, well, I'm definitely your papa. Like, that's my most important job, and I'm also a teacher for grown-ups a little bit. And then she says, it's hard to be both. And I was like, yeah, work-life balance. That's the thing. But
like, contractors suck. You're like, I know. Oh
man, our little guy Gus, like a lot of boys, he's like all about heavy equipment and construction stuff. And so he's super excited. There's this massive road project going on in Traverse City in Michigan, where we live, which I might mention was funded by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and signed off by the Department of Transportation.
So that's why you did it.
Just saying. No, so you say that. Another example of caring about rules. Like, I sent that one back 3 times to be like triple checked because I saw it on the list and I knew that I lived close to it. I was like, I need to make sure that the career staff certify that this is a deserving project. Otherwise, it looks like I sent a project to my neighborhood. Like, that's the kind of stuff you worry about, or you should worry about in public office. But there's all this heavy equipment. There's excavators and bulldozers. Just like, he's like so happy, but he's really like monitoring them. Like, if it's ever like after hours, he's like, why aren't the workers working? I was like, well,
I'm wondering the same thing.
I want them working
overtime.
What's overtime? Bubs, it's Sunday. Like, they're not working today. He's like, why aren't they working?
Wow.
But it's
wait till you start driving, and then you see the construction workers never work. Just kidding. Or maybe that was just a thing in Nebraska. Bro, all the under construction roads and nobody there? What's going on here, guys?
It's the best thing. It's the hardest thing.
Have you thought about, like, when your son gets older, his experience in the world probably different from yours? Like, how would you have those combos with him? Or even, let's say, your daughter, like, learning to deal with her hair. It's going to be a little difficult. Like, how have you thought about these things? Do they concern you?
Yeah, we think about it all the time. And it's not.
We're just going to trans both our kids so that they're both. I'm just
like, we have it all figured out. So we were in.
But if anybody knows how important identity is,
of course. So we were in what's called a surprise adoption scenario. So we literally I was at work. I was traveling. We got a phone call. Chasten called me. And the next day, we were in a rural Midwestern hospital holding him in our arms, and they were like, one day old. Like, it was like that, like just from like normal life to like. And by the way, it's twins.
How do you get those? Is that like expensive? Because I feel like there's like a high demand for newborns, but like nobody wants kids that are older, which is tragic. It's a really fucked and sad situation, but.
Which was amazing.
You didn't know it was twins before.
We were just on a list. You know, we said that we were willing to adopt, or we wanted to adopt. We said that we wanted to adopt without regard for race. By the way, anybody who says race is not a thing in this country should experience an adoption process where there are literally different lists. If you say that you want a white kid only, versus if you say that doesn't matter. Like, literally a different list.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
The list for white kid only is longer.
You might want to elaborate on that, because chat or arbitrary virgins without kids. Wait, elaborate on what?
And not only that, there was actually a discount, or you didn't have to pay a deposit.
Wait, what did I do? Hold on.
Like, literally a different list.
What is that?
Or literally different lists. If you say that you want a white kid only, versus if you say that doesn't matter. Like, literally a different list.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
The list for white kid only is longer. And not only that, there was actually a discount, or you didn't have to pay a deposit on the fee.
Discounts.
This is like how it works.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. So we didn't know anything about the racial identity of the kids until they started to look mixed race, which they are. And like contending with like the hair thing is already like a thing, and like lots of advice, especially from like black parents who like.
People are concerned that children who have reached a certain age might have underlying issues. That could be it. I don't know if I believe that. My intuition tells me the thing that people care more about is it's like having a new car versus a used car. You want somebody that is like as much your kid as possible, and having like a newborn kind of like fills that. You know, it's like day one, like, okay, this is mine from the very beginning. I get to raise him or her however I want. I feel like it's probably more that. That's my guess, but I could be wrong on that.
See stuff on Instagram, or they're like, let me tell you how to do it. Like a lot of advice. And like to begin with, like the idea of being a girl dad and dealing with girl hair was pretty intimidating. Like my hair is like very simple and straightforward. Obviously, I'm a low maintenance kind of guy. And like starting to learn about like all the different products that are involved. Him too. Like we have like a whole sequence with you know, a conditioner and then essential oils, all this stuff. And you're always asking yourself like, how can I be? You're already constantly asking yourself, how can I be a good dad? And now it's like, how can I be a good dad for kids who have a different racial identity than I do? And how can I help them navigate that? And what are the circumstances where there's nothing I can do to help them navigate that? And I need to connect them up to mentors and people in their lives, because the reality is like, this is not a colorblind society, and like their lives will be affected in some way by their racial, all of ours are, but one thing about being white is you don't have to think about the fact that when you're white, your racial identity is not something that you're reminded of all the time, in a way that they will be. And we live in a not super diverse, although it's getting more diverse, part of Michigan. But our hope is that they will, by the time they're old enough to even be wondering and thinking about these things, which I know is coming sooner than we think, that they know that they are loved and that they are safe, and that they're growing up into a world that has so much possibility for them, and that we'll be there for them any way we can. But it's pretty humbling, like as a parent, to know that you'll be navigating.
Are you, let's say, for example, in some like hypothetical scenario where you run for president, let's just say, right? Obviously, nobody has plans for that, but you know, let's just say, potentially, you wouldn't be announcing that here, but you can, as he takes a sip of water. There must be concern about the potential scrutiny on not only you, but like your family. Like all these people become public figures, and unfairly so, you know? How do you manage that? Like what your kids can
They're
go
gonna say
through,
some unfair
like,
things. They're children.
Like like how do you process all that? And
It's tough because like they didn't sign up for this, right? I mean, it's hard enough on Chasten, who's like an adult, but you know, he didn't exactly sign up for this either. He's on, you know, he's supportive. But when we ran for president, obviously that was really hard on him and very costly for him in all kinds of ways. And that much more so for little kids. And one of the worst things about politics is how little regard it shows for the people who go into public service and their family. Even just the fact that like when somebody leaves an office or decides not to run, like if they ever say like, I want to spend more time with my family, that is immediately taken as code for like, I got caught in some scandal, or like I did something wrong, right? Versus like, we should celebrate that. Like if somebody wants to spend more time with their family, like that's a really good way to spend your time. Part of what I've really been leaning into just these last few months, being out of office, like working, but not working at the pace, the extreme pace that I did, is that like, I'm usually the one to drop them off at school every day, and I'm just like in their lives more, and it's wonderful. But yeah, the costs are enormous, and one thing that makes you really think twice about running for any office, and definitely, you know, the highest doing national politics, is that you know, lots of people wind up paying into that, and not all of them had a say.
What is that? What do you mean paying into that?
Well, they're
I have to pay the price.
The spouse,
for your kids are sacrificed.
Your spouse.
Holy shit! He should have ran for office with the mask, and then no one would know who he was. God, there are so many things about The Dark Knight Rises that don't make sense. Nobody cared who I was until I put on the mask. Nobody cared about Bane ever. Why? That's quoted doesn't make any sense. Like, There's like this obsession with like the masked man from Mr. CIA, but nobody in the rest of the movie actually seems to give that much of a fuck. Oh, whatever.
Sacrifice.
Yes,
Right. So all these people pay the price for, some might say, your ambition. But if your ambition is to do something that would make the country a better place for your children, I imagine there's a way that you can justify that sacrifice that they would go through.
Yes.
I don't want to be answering the question for you.
No, that's the whole thing.
I'm just curious how you balance all those things.
No, yeah, and I talked to a lot of, I took a hard look at running for Senate just now because the Senate seat in Michigan where I live came open. I decided not to, but and there are all kinds of reasons why, but part of what was on my mind was that I really was looking to spend, certainly this year, really putting family first. And, I talked to a lot of people who were in the Senate or in Congress, and they talked about the price that their families paid, but also at a certain point, their kids were old enough to be really proud of what they did, that made a difference and set a good example of public service and made their lives better. But look, if you hold yourself to a tough standard, you have to ask yourself whether whether you're really not confusing your personal ambition with your ambition for the country, right? Like when you run for president, you obviously reveal that you're an ambitious person, right? Hopefully you do it because you have ambitions for the country, but there's something selfless about it and there's something selfish about it. Right? There's something selfless about going through the extreme pace and the hard work and all of the bullshit and all of the risk and the very real chance that you'll lose and all the other things that happen, right? But also, unlike the other people in your family who are coming along for the ride, you get your name is on the poster and you get to have all of these experiences and if it goes well, you get celebrated in all kinds of ways, right? And you're always asking, or you should always be asking yourself, okay, why exactly am I doing this? And it's really hard to separate those things. I mean, nobody can perfectly separate those things. But I do know that there are things that are things that are more important than winning, and things that are more important than running.
Nothing is more important than winning
right
ever. That's only what a loser says.
What drew you to public service in the first place, right? Like you're graduating from Harvard, you're McKinsey, you have the opportunity, obviously a brilliant guy, to make millions of dollars and live your life in privacy.
This guy.
But yet you sacrifice all of that for a more meager pay and more public scrutiny.
So I grew up in a family and a household that was not politically connected. Like I don't remember meeting any elected officials when I was growing up. But it was very politically.
Wait, does Pete have any political job right now, or is he just out doing stuff? He's a bum. Why did you guys both say that, dude? I got bots in my chat. What the fuck?
Aware. Like my parents were the kind of people, especially my dad, who would be always watching the news, always talking about whatever was going on the news, and kind of I think built in me the idea that the most important thing out there was kind of what's going on in how decisions are being made about our country and about the world. And so I had that in me even when I was a teenager and I thought I was going to be an airline pilot. That was my real first ambition.
He had that dog.
And by the time I got to college, I was really, really interested in public service, but I didn't understand how compelling and exciting local public service was going to be. And then we talked about my hometown a little bit, everything that South Bend had gone through. And I watched that over the years and thought about making a difference. But even then, I didn't know.
What? Okay. Oh, my God. My Uber home from the airport, which was a 23-minute drive, was a fucking hour and a half. I don't know what happened this morning. If there was if one of the bridges was down to one lane, but I don't know why that would affect it coming back. Fuck this morning. But the reason I bring this up, this guy was playing a CD in his car. First of all, this guy looked hard as fuck. Okay, he had tats. He was talking like a gangster. Okay, I was meek in the back. He was I gotta pick up some smack. This guy is hard. Okay, and he was playing this CD, or I'm sorry. That stands for compact disc. This is what we used to play music on, not CD. But he had some kind of album going, and it was girl singing on acoustic guitar remixes of every random song ever. What? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Like one was like lose yourself.
His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already.
Oh, was this? I think. No, it wasn't this song.
Everybody's joking now, the clock's run out.
Oh no, it might have been this.
Snap back to reality.
No, it wasn't this one. It was another like girl acoustic guitar cover of, but it was like just so many random pop songs. Why? Is this normal?
Won't come out, he's choking how.
I don't know. Okay.
It would mean.
But I had to listen to the full fucking album of all these fucking covers. And I'm like, oh my God.
But by the time I was at McKinsey, which, you know, it's very, maybe comfortable is the wrong word because you work very hard there, but like it's very like nice job in a lot of ways. It's good pay. I'm definitely more, I was making 6 figures out of grad school. Like it was good money. And, you know, flying to all these interesting places, working on interesting stuff. But within a year.
When you're a girl and get into an Uber and the guy driver tries to play what he thinks women enjoy, I'm tortured by Taylor and Beyonce most of the time. Damn.
I figured out that, like I remember one time I was working on this kind of interesting, complicated set of problems about like, grocery pricing, and I was running this database and doing my job. And it was intellectually interesting, but the more I got into it, I remember this moment where I got up to get a cup of coffee and I just had this thought hit me that was like, I don't care.
Oh no, is that when, is that, there's gotta be a skit. Wait, that has to be a skit. That's gotta be a thing. Where like a white dude gets in a car and the black guy like has some like Tupac playing or some bullshit, and then the white guy gets in and he changes it and it turns to like Justin Timberlake. I'm sorry, these are like the most 90s, 2000s things I can think of right now. There has to be somebody who's done a skit about this before, right?
Where I got up to get a cup of coffee and I just had this thought hit me that was like, I don't care.
Huh.
And once I realized that like at some deeper level, I cared about doing a good job, but I didn't like viscerally care that like this company that we were consulting for would go on to do better than its competitors, right? Like that was not what propelled me. And I realized that even if there was less money in it, I was going to be both happier and more effective, more productive, working on something that I did care about, something that was important.
Do you think Pete's going to run in 2028? Yes, and he's going to win. Pete is going to win. This guy's already won for 2028, 100%. That's my call. I'll bet anybody $10 million, 100 to 1 odds on it. Consider this bet verbally binding, okay? If you type okay in chat, we've agreed.
Because a client was paying me to care about it, but because it just mattered in and of itself. And then, I don't want to get into like the entire long story, but we talked earlier about Kokomo, Indiana, Howard County. So that's got thousands of Chrysler jobs. And while I was having this struggle at McKinsey over whether I really wanted to keep being a consultant or not, I saw that the state treasurer of my home state of Indiana was, for very like ideological reasons, trying to block the Obama administration from saving Chrysler. So the auto company was about to go under. All of them were, the administration intervened, and they figured out a way to basically bail out and save.
Isn't it kind of funny? If you think about it, back in the day, people were so ass-pained about bailouts for car companies, but now they were more mad about the Lehman Brothers shit. Well, that one went under, right, for the big banks. But people were mad about the car company bailout shit, too. But now people are like, no, we need to fucking literally suicide the entire economy to bail out our manufacturing. Isn't that kind of weird?
Save these auto companies so they get back on their feet and keep employing thousands and thousands of people across the country. And because I grew up in South Bend where an auto company had collapsed, and because I had visited Kokomo where there was an auto company that hadn't collapsed, but I knew what would happen if it did, I was really, really fired up about this guy, the Indiana state treasurer, going all the way to the Supreme Court trying to sue to stop.
Somebody, okay. $50 bounty. Somebody has to be able to find a way to make it so that like if a thing gets mentioned in chat, it's not like the same thing forever. There has to be a way to figure this out. Somebody create a solution to this. I'm aware that Trump is speaking to the Norwegian Prime Minister. I'm aware that David Pakman did an interview. I see these things. I have these links open. There's got to be some way to communicate this. So I don't have to say constantly, yes, I know he's talking to this guy. Yes, I know this. There must be a way. Pin message? No, nobody reads the pin message. Okay? There must be a way to do this.
Those companies from being saved. And there's a whole crazy...
Just ignore it? I can't ignore it. I'm a streamer. I have to compulsively read every single thing about me and in my chat. I can't help myself.
legal theory of how he got to be the one to do it. But what he was really doing was politically. He, and obviously state treasurers are not very prominent, but he picked this big fight with Obama and it got him on TV, and it was kind of a political maneuver. And I thought, like, the state treasurer should be the most boring job in government, right? You shouldn't be like out on crusades, especially ones that if you get your way, it would destroy auto jobs in a place that counts on them. So I started asking who's going to run against this guy. And this was 2010. It turned out like nobody in my party was going to run against him. Probably because everybody correctly figured out that a midterm election in a...
What about Ben Shapiro and Zelensky? Wait, Lou S. Did Ben Shapiro debate Zelensky? Lou S. in YouTube chat? Wait, did he? Wait, wait, what? Wait, did this just drop 1 minute ago? Lou S. Really? Ben Shapiro debated Zelensky?
State like Indiana for a down ballot, like obscure race, like running for state treasurer, like you're probably gonna get crushed. And I ran and I got crushed. But I learned everything there was to learn about kind of campaigns. I went to all these chicken dinners in 90 counties in Indiana and shook hands.
Do you think I could run for like some local state thing? But like, if I win the election, just not give a fuck and not actually do anything? Can I just like keep streaming? I feel like, all right, guys, we did it. I'm never coming into work. If you guys want to vote for me next election, go for it. Otherwise, good luck. Do you think you'd be allowed to do that?
And introduced myself and tried to explain why I thought that there needed to be a different approach in that office.
God, the city council meetings when the hecklers show up and I'm like, oh, I just went 0-10 on the Rift and you show up at my city council meeting to heckle me? Oh my God.
Office. And then as soon as that ended and I got beat and I was figuring out what to do next, was I going to go back to the firm or get another job? That was when the longest serving mayor in the history of my city said he wasn't going to run again. And all those conversations that I'd been having over beers with like buddies from high school after we'd grown up and mostly moved out because we all got the message that like success meant moving out. We're always saying like, what's going on back in South Bend? Like, why can't they like grow more? Why can't we like, why don't young people believe in that place? And started to feel like we could maybe do something about that. And so we had this crazy idea to have me run for mayor and just have a totally different message than any of the other people, Democrats mostly, who were running. And then we won. So that was kind of my path. I always cared about this.
Genuine question. Does the fact that so many of your videos lately have been about people changing their mind on Trump or disagreeing with Trump or regretting their vote, does this not contradict your claim that MAGA conservatives are a cult that follow mindlessly? Not rage bait, just honest. Okay, chat, type the answer. Go ahead. Cobble it together. I know you guys can do this.
Stuff, but I never would have guessed.
I'm not even mad. I think I've said a lot of the time, I feel like my predictions have gotten pretty good, or like I feel like I have a better understanding over the past few months of like where the puck will be. The thing that I've said over and over again is that I think that there is like a core constituency of MAGA that will never, ever, ever change their fucking mind on anything. People think that that's like 95% of the party. I think that's like 20-ish, 20 to 30% of the party. There's a lot of outer perimeter people that I think are very sensitive to changing conditions. That's what I've said for quite a while, and I haven't changed that, so. It's not surprising to me that people's minds are changing.
Message than any of the other people, Democrats mostly, who were running. And then we won. So that was kind of my path. I always cared about this stuff, but I never would have guessed that I would run for state treasurer or that I would
go for senator because you only have 160 days in session. Like a federal, like a U.S. senator, those elections. Those are real elections. Okay, I would have to super try. That'd be like a full-time job trying, and my chance of that would be very slim. But I feel like there are states where we could go for like even like a House delegate seat. Like these elections are like. Do you think that there are Florida state assembly or state senator seats that have like less than 10,000 people voting? Florida, Ballotpedia, state Congress. I don't even know what the fuck they call it down here. The Florida state legislature. Like, is there a way that I can see the... There we go. Oh, but it would have to probably be an off season, huh? Because like a midterm, sorry. I'm curious what your thoughts are in general on Pete Buttigieg and his politics. Like, I know the wealth tax is kind of dumb, but I feel he's really reasonable, has really fair and good views on how to improve our country and the Dem Party. I don't mind as much when Democrats have super retarded econ views, because I know that they're responsible enough to listen to the people around them, and those retarded econ views won't matter that much. So like when Kamala Harris was talking about like a wealth tax or like an unrealized cap gains tax, like, I don't care that much because these are retarded ideas, and I know it's just not going to happen because they're dumb. And anytime she would try to do anything, the CBO or some economic advisors or whatever would be like, hey, this is fucking retarded, don't do this. And she'd be like, oh, okay. And then they'd say some reason why they can't do it. Trump is crazy though. But Republicans used to be like that too, to be fair. But Trump is just a unique, special, crazy guy. Okay, this is like 100,000 votes, dude. Fuck that. District 1. Okay, what about District 34? How many people are voting over here? Man, these are like 60, 70, 80,000. You can win on just your name? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would crush these people in a national popularity contest, but that does not necessarily translate to on the ground votes for local seats. A really good example of that is Cenk Uygur, who I'm guessing Cenk probably has more name recognition than me, even in my corner of the internet in terms of like online politics, and Cenk got obliterated. I want to say it was like less than 2% in the, and that was that for a California House seat?
Really find meaning in local government, and obviously did not think when I was running for mayor that I was going to like turn around and seek the presidency. Like if it weren't for all of the unique things that were going on in our country in 2019, at any other moment, somebody like me never would have run for president.
Oh, that's fascinating. But when we had Vivek on, and I'm naive, like living in New York, there was a moment where they asked him, you can't be president because you don't believe, or they said to him, you can't be president because you don't believe in Jesus Christ.
Damn.
Something to that effect. Like, do you believe in Jesus Christ? And they made it a moment.
Keep going. I'm going to use the bathroom real quick. All right, I'm gonna go
Sorry,
out there.
keep going.
So I guess I'm curious, and I hope this doesn't sound reductive, but from your perspective, do you feel like America is ready for a gay president? And do you feel like that will be a major contention point if you were to run?
Not to trigger the libs too much, and I could be totally wrong on this, but I really do feel like we're kind of over some of there's like an era of certain types of identities. I don't think Americans are, at least for president, I think we've kind of moved on from some of them. Like a lot of people are like, oh, if Kamala Harris would have been a straight white male, she would have won the election. I was like, I don't actually know if that would have mattered that much. I don't know if it would have mattered that much. I think some conservatives really wanted to make it about race, like some conservative speakers, but I just don't think those talking points stuck very hard. And Kamala didn't make it much about race, and I don't know. Honest to God, I'm giving you a vibe. I think this is an internal racism feeling I have. It must be. I don't even know where this comes from. But I think that going strictly on identities, I think that Americans would vote for oh God, I'm looking at my intuitions. I feel like gay is way more accepted than lesbian. I feel like Americans would vote for a gay black president before they would vote for any Asian or any Indian president. Like when I look at Vivek, I think that the issue would definitely be more him being Indian than him being not Christian or whatever. For all the people in chat that are saying no, gay men are absolutely more accepted largely in society and in different positions than lesbian women are. The only version of the lesbian that is accepted in society is the male gaze hot woman who fucks women with guys just for men to jerk off to. The concept of a lesbian is a lot different than actual lesbians, 80% of whom fucking hate men, by the way. Just kidding. It's like 60%. I think that gay men are more normalized in society than lesbian women, for sure. I think so.
Yeah, it was definitely a thing last time around. Although a lot of people were, I think in my party especially, people like get ahead of themselves or they get really wrapped up in this where there's only one way to actually find out. and that's to like go to voters and see what they're ready for. I don't think a lot of people thought that my like Indiana city was ready for a mayor who was gay. When I got reelected after coming out, I had a higher vote percentage than the first time around.
Like, look at this guy getting elected well, it's South Bend, he says. I don't know how big that city is. But still, Indiana, gay guy. Kind of looks like a mouse. We're over the gay thing, okay? Gay is the new straight, basically. People aren't even happy being bi anymore. That's how straight gay has become. They got to be pan, okay?
I would like to think that's because I did a good job, but also it meant people didn't care that much.
I was shocked when Obama won. I didn't think the country was ready for a black president.
And by the way, Indiana went for Obama. And I think that's really interesting. That state had not voted Democratic since LBJ. And so the idea...
Somebody said, why is the stock market acting like we're not in a trade war still? And you just reminded me of a tweet that I saw. Fuck. I don't remember if Richard Hanania tweeted it. Did anybody have the thing where, I don't know how real the data is, but it was like the stock market every single time, I think it was Lutnick or Trump talks, and then it was the stock market on average every time Bessent talks. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Jesus Christ. Oh, this guy. I remember this guy's 5 minutes of fame. This is Bloomberg, source Bloomberg. Personnel is policy and performance, question mark. S&P 500 daily return, depending on which Trump official is mentioned more in news articles. Based. Could you hit us with the cliff notes on why a wealth tax is dumb? Personally, because I think that if I continue on this current trajectory, as long as I do really well, I think there's a potential for me to be a billionaire in the future. And me and the rest of my billionaire friends don't want to be subjected to wealth taxes. So
idea that the person who would flip it for the Democrats was not Bill Clinton, not John Kerry. It was Barack Hussein Obama, right? Was not something if you were sitting around, I don't know, 6 months before he got nominated, saying, all right, who's the like safest choice who would even put Indiana on the electoral map? You wouldn't have said Obama, right?
Oh, man. Bernie bros down bad. The Clinton machine is too strong. They fucking threw the election against Bernie. Bro, you should have seen how much the Clinton machine fucking hated Barack Obama. Oof. Oof. Any take on why influencers are skipping drama now? Why somebody more than Ludwig said they're skipping it?
But I think the lesson from that is that you can overthink these things. In the end, like the only way to find out the answers, like get out there and try. And I don't want to compare, like, obviously it's like very different.
What am I doing?
Whenever
running
there's
around
some
for an hour
artificial
doing
barrier
nothing.
people make up for why somebody can't run or can't serve, I think.
Realistically, though, isn't there a decent point to be made about the super rich just taking out loans against assets? I've addressed this point a million times, okay? One, I doubt this is that big of a problem. It's just probably not that big of a thing. It's just a thing that you personally just don't like. Two, if you really want to get rid of this thing, then force somebody to only take out only take out a loan against something you have a tax basis in. So if you want to take out a loan against something, you have to step the basis up, meaning you've got to pay the taxes up to whatever you're going to take out a loan against. Okay, there, boom, problem solved. But three, that won't even raise much revenue. It's not even a big revenue driver. I seriously doubt there's going to be a huge make or break thing for any part of the funding of any part of the government. It's just a thing that people like to talk about.
You just got to test it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Go ahead.
Oh, you got
Miles, you got something?
it's on
doing?
a different subject. You're probably
Artillery.
Oh, mine.
That's what
I
I
have a bunch of.
So, China, you brought up early in the interview. I hate to pivot back to this, but I do want to get some clarity from this. And I think one good thing the tariffs have done, the Chinese are, whether it's propaganda or not, my Instagram now is nothing but Chinese electric vehicles. I've been ranting to them for days now. I'm like, oh, these guys are so far ahead of us. They have people coming forward. Andrew sent us an Instagram today of someone from China saying, hey, you know what happened? These billionaires in America took all this money, kept it for themselves. In China, they built up the infrastructure. I don't know if any of that is true, but it does seem like this is a very real threat. And it does seem like they're ahead in certain ways that we might not be ready to catch up for.
Yeah.
What can we do, as I'm asking you to think, because it's obvious you understand 1 year, 5 year goal like needs very well. 10, 20, 30 years, and when you said it's important for Americans to be number one. 30 years from now, how are we number one? What's your ideas for that?
Yeah,
Tariff
I
and
think it's
close
going to be
down
really tough
all
for
of our
America
trade.
to stay number one unless we do certain things right away. First of all, it's back to basics. It's taking care of our own infrastructure, our own education system. It's making it easier and more affordable to raise a family here. Just like all those core things that you don't think of as like international policy.
Yeah.
But if you do them right, then you get international primacy the same way that like part of how we won the Cold War and beat the Soviet Union, it wasn't obviously like there was a military side of that, but like their military was formidable too, right? The real like inarguable massive advantage we had was that there were way more people living in the Soviet Union who wished they were living American lives than anybody in America wishing they could live a Soviet life, right? On some level, I think that was everything. That was how America truly came to be number one. So first of all, take care of the basics at home. But also, we need to recognize that we're going into a ferociously competitive world stage here, where we can't just keep trading off the glories of having won World War II, which is pretty much how we were able to build the international system the way we like it over the 50 years that followed. And recognize that every country is not like just on its own finding its way toward liberal democracy. That comes and goes. I believe it's actually on the wane in our country, and I'm trying to do something about it. But it's eroding in places like Hungary. A lot of places were more democratic 10 years ago than they are now.
Damn.
So we've got to recognize that this is going to require a level of investment in technology and a level of commitment to our values that both earns friends and establishes the kind of economic power that you need in order to, alongside your military power, in order to be number one. I really worry that what we're in right now is a mode that's going to make it not so much America first has to be America in first place. To do it right.
Yeah.
If it's America first the way they're doing it, I think it means America alone. And we become just like another country out there, scrapping for advantage. But to your point about China, like, one of the things that the last administration did that I believe in is dealing with Chinese EV, unfair competition from the Chinese EV market. We should be making those here. The other part of the story that I was telling you about Indiana, Howard County, where those Chrysler jobs were, and St. Joe County, where I grew up, and a lot of places in Michigan where I live now, is the EV battery factories. Like there is a $3 or $4 billion GM battery factory going up on the western edge of the county where I grew up that is bigger than any manufacturing investment that happened there in my entire life. China is making big bets in EV. It's not because I don't believe the Chinese Communist Party is terribly concerned about being first in climate change, right? They understand the geostrategic implications of owning.
I don't think you should ever give that, actually. I personally think that you should message the exact opposite on that. I think people, places like China and India, I think they do care about climate change and pollution damage and shit because they have a whole bunch of fucking people and we just take it for granted that we have like clean drinking water everywhere and that our air is relatively breathable and all that. We take that for granted, but China, like their larger cities, like used to be almost unlivable. The smog alerts and shit. I don't know what Beijing looks like today, but they used to be fucking terrible. And I think that is probably a significant concern for a lot of these developing countries, that they don't want their place to be super fucked. And we should be actively competing in that arena and understanding that they're probably trying to compete very actively in that arena as well.
The 21st century vehicle market, the way we did the last century. So is that an example of where it could be appropriate to use tariffs? Absolutely. Yeah. But again, we got to know what we're doing.
And maybe this is touching on what Andrew was saying earlier about build a wall. Can you give me an idea of something you would want to do? And again, this might be exactly what you were saying. What's something you would do to make me feel better?
What is this? Let's say ceteris paribus, Israel is the morally more agreeable side than Palestine. Let's say your Piers Morgan, you bring on Rabbi Shmuley to make the defense, or Rabbi Shmuley to make the defense, but he only serves to radicalize the strength of the opposing viewpoint. Have they committed some form of actual harm / stochastic terrorism as they move more viewers away from correct perspective? I don't know if I'd say stochastic terrorism here, but I don't think you should ever platform like radicals. And I think that Rabbi Shmuley guy, if I recall what I've heard from him, he's just like a radical Zionist crazy dude. Don't want to stun lock you on tax policy, but is there anything you would change about our current tax system other than potentially raising the highest brackets to pre-TCJA levels? I don't remember why, but I've heard that economists really like property taxes, and that property taxes are a really good way to collect revenue, and they're very, very, very good at targeting like wealthy people. Like if you get a big ass fucking house, you can pay a big ass fucking property tax, and they're like also a form of use tax. Like if you pay a property tax, it goes to your local community and everything around you. It's just like a very good tax to levy and collect. These are probably the two biggest ones, right? It's probably like saying fuck yeah to property taxes more, and that the country having some kind of VAT I think would be good, because it would just give the federal government some ability to collect a sales tax. I think would be good.
Of something you would want to do, and again, this might be exactly what you were saying. What's something you would do to make me feel better as a guy who's looking at them and being like, oh, 600.
What's the difference between property and wealth tax? A wealth tax is a percentage tax on the entirety of your net worth that you pay to the federal government. A property tax is a tax assessed by the county towards your house, and you pay yearly. I don't know. What do you mean? Can you explain what VAT is? VAT stands for value added tax. It's like a sales tax, but it's added at every single stage of value add and the production of a particular thing. So if I buy a door and I buy a frame and I spend $50 on each of them and then I put them together and now it's worth $150, I think you tax the $50 appreciation in value is a value added tax of VAT, I think. Property tax is based on the value of your property though. Okay, and income tax is based on your income. Is every tax that's based on something like a wealth tax? What? How is this kind of capped though? Wouldn't it affect the bottom brackets more than the top? No, your property tax is usually a percentage of the total value of your home. What do you mean?
Mile batteries and fucking floating on air or whatever.
Yeah.
What is an idea you would have? It's like, just in the global scale, how America can compete.
It's super regressive though, right? It'd just be passed on to the consumer. Okay, middle income disproportionately. It'd probably be kind of regressive, but not all regressive taxes are necessarily bad. Like every sales tax is regressive. Every like gasoline tax is regressive. Like the goal shouldn't be like to have every single tax has to be a progressive tax. Like the income tax could be a highly progressive tax system. But just because a tax is progressive doesn't necessarily make it bad. It can be a bad thing about it, or it could be a negative aspect, but not necessarily. Sin taxes are probably really regressive.
You mean like a tech idea?
Or just, yeah, it's like, just in the global scale, how America can compete.
You mean like a tech idea?
Or just, yeah, this factory can go up that would create these jobs. Just kind of anything that I could grasp at to feel some hope.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, we can do the clean tech stuff better. But
better than them, or
better
just
than
better?
Them.
Okay.
Both.
Clean
better than
tech,
we have.
What does that mean? Like
anything like from electric vehicles to solar energy installations, all that stuff.
I've never heard you actually address this, but isn't it kind of hypocritical that you advocate for higher taxes but chose to move to a low tax state to avoid those high taxes? Yes, it's massively hypocritical. Like when you ask people to, become doctors and you're not a doctor yourself, or like when you ask people to volunteer at soup kitchens but you're not volunteering at every soup kitchen yourself, or when you say that people should be nice to their siblings but they don't even have any siblings, so they don't make their mom and dad fuck to make more children. Like, no.
Can do it better, but we have to make a commitment as a country that we are going to invest in that. It doesn't just happen. There's this fiction that all of the things we see around us in the marketplace just came around without any policy choices. There were huge policy choices that made the automobile possible in this country. Subsidies on everything from fossil fuels to the interstate highway system, right? We need to make similar choices around owning the clean tech market for the future, owning AI. Like, I think we have a real problem with China could very well legitimately outpace us on AI if we let them. And getting AI right is not just for the tiny proportion of people who understand how to code large language models and stuff that I can't even get my head around. It's making sure that as a society, like part of our education is like people understand how to deal with AI the same way that like you can't say somebody's educated and can graduate into the workplace if they don't know how to use email. Or, it's a competency more than like a technical expertise. which is why I was a little bit alarmed when I found out that our U.S. Education Secretary today thinks there's something called A1, and read a speech about how we need to do more.
There is something called
Instead
A1
of AI.
Yeah,
Holy shit!
Oh, wow.
I think she's just like reading a prompter.
We're
Is
fucking
this
cooked,
Linda
dog.
McMahon?
Yeah,
We're
yeah, right. I'm not making this up,
no,
right?
Linda.
It's over.
Yeah, like we need to make sure that
passport.
We got to make education A1. That's what she does. We got to make it A1.
I mean, so, you know, you're right to be worried.
Yeah.
Me personally, sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead.
I know you got to get out of here, Pete.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
Yeah,
This is my last one. I think the biggest issue facing America is the wage gap. Salaries have been stagnant.
this is huge.
CEO pays
Yes.
have skyrocketed.
Yeah.
How can we convince corporations to pay higher salaries when their responsibility is to stockholders?
Well, it can't just be pretty please. I mean, this is where if the corporation, we have to either change the incentives on the front end so that there are tax advantages to taking better care of your people, or we have to be ready to do it through policy where this country says you're going to make $100 billion in wealth off of work that 100,000 people working for you generated. More of that needs to be going to them. And by the way, these things are actually related. I think there's a way to deal in American citizens on kind of like a dividend off of the value that's being created from AI. And from, I don't want to take it down a whole rabbit hole, but if you imagine...
UBI kind of thing?
What, how's that?
Like a universal basic income kind of thing?
It could be. There's different ways to structure it. But I think it's giving everybody a...
God, I love the concept of a global wealth fund. Or a sovereign wealth fund, sorry. But I don't know if America's ready for that.
share in the overall value that's being created by technologies, which again rest on technologies that the taxpayer paid for in the first place back in the 60s. So why shouldn't we all get a share?
Yeah, we're investing it.
Instead of it all going to this tiny handful of super, super wealthy people who are consolidating their own power. The same way the president's consolidating his political power. You got these I don't even just like normal billionaires, but like mega billionaires consolidating their
Not the
power,
normal billionaires. How much longer until lefties are like, whoa, 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 I didn't mean kill all billionaires. I meant the super billionaires. I've only got like, do you know the lifestyle difference between a guy who's net worth barely 1 billion versus a guy who's like worth 100 billion? You know, it's not even, you know the difference between 1 billion and 100 billion, right? It's like 100 billion.
We have to have tax policy that does that. We have to have a system that requires people who amass that kind of wealth to be sharing it with citizens.
I worked out what your income per hour is gross for each hour streamed. It's a lot, and it's gross. Okay, it's disgusting. Don't judge me.
Because again, I know there's this myth. Look, I have a lot of respect for entrepreneurs who create.
What is a sovereign wealth fund? I have a super basic understanding of it because I'm too lazy to read about it because I'm playing Factorio. But I think it's basically the idea that like the government has some small investment in like all of your major companies, or maybe the government like buys shares, not necessarily to vote or control the companies, but like the government is like a 2 to 3% ownership or whatever of all the major companies in the country. And then what happens is as those companies grow, your government makes money, and you have like a sovereign wealth fund dividend that's just paid out to all of your citizens. Like I think Norway does this. I think Alaska might do this, or somehow Alaska pays money to all of the people that live in Alaska. I really like that concept because I like the idea that everybody would be invested in all of our large companies doing really well. Like you don't really care if Jeff Bezos or if Amazon is posting like record profits. If anything, well, not only do you not care, usually it makes you salty as fuck. But if everybody had some share in that victory, or if everybody had some share in the form of a sovereign wealth fund and, you know, that pays a UBI dividend or some bullshit in that, I think we would all feel a lot better about those companies growing because we would all feel like we're kind of bought into it. And we are really, and we do get paid for it really, but it's like very hard to see how we benefit. And a sovereign wealth fund, I just think makes that immediately noticeable, like very transparent, but.
Things, and they should be hugely rewarded when they create things that are valuable. But they created those things based partly on infrastructure that all of us paid for, right? And by infrastructure, I don't just mean roads and bridges. I mean national security. I mean things like inventing the internet or mRNA vaccine technology or whatever it is. But more broadly, and this is both on the substance and the politics, I think you're naming something that's hugely important, which is the inequality in this country. It doesn't get talked about enough. It has gotten worse pretty much our entire lives. Yeah. And no republic has ever survived this level of inequality for long and remained a republic. that kind of income inequality leads to inequality in power, which leads to political instability, which leads to some of the things I think we're experiencing right now as a country.
That's deep.
And if we don't get a handle on that, and it can absolutely be dealt with in a way that is...
Maybe you've already talked about this, but just saw the TikTok of Finkelstein claiming you're paid by Israeli advocacy groups. Is he lying or did he fall for the memes? Suing him would be epic, though. I would sue him, but I'm so afraid of what he'll find in discovery when he realizes that I actually was paid by and trained by the Mossad for weeks and weeks, or months, did he say, before our debate? So I'm too scared to sue him. He got me.
Consistent with a strong...
Also, people wanted to say that the Norwegian Wealth Fund only invests in international funds to avoid corruption. So there you go.
We don't get a handle on that. And it can absolutely be dealt with in a way that is consistent with a strong economy and business doing well. We know that because there were times in our history, including the middle of the last century, when tax policy was asking more of the wealthiest. And also there was a lot of economic growth and a lot of productivity growth. So it can be done. The other thing that nobody talks about in either party much is poverty. Like you may notice in political rhetoric, like people, middle class, you're always supposed to say middle class. You always talk about the middle. Can't go wrong talking about the middle class.
Fuck the middle class.
But
you should really sue these people, though. Maybe after the after this lawsuit, I don't know what else. The law firm that I work for, I don't know what other work they do. But you know, I actually thought about it. I joked with Dan about it yesterday, but I'm kind of serious. Hopefully once this current lawsuit is dismissed, maybe I'll retain them and start doing more legal memes, like suing people for if they're doing retarded shit. We'll see.
Not a lot of folks are talking about like poor and low wealth people, which depending how you count is more than 100 million Americans.
Damn.
Jeez. And by the way, is an experience that binds together a lot of people who are divided in terms of first generation immigrants, white, black, and brown people and so forth. And one of the things that should be the starkest
a lot of brokies
wake-up call for my party is the idea of losing the vote of poor people.
Yep.
Because if we're not winning the vote of poor people, like what are we even doing out here, right?
Yep.
And
or what are you?
We don't really talk about poverty.
Yep.
Or that kind of insecurity that people go through.
Yeah. Or like, what are you promoting, or seemingly promoting, or what are the Republicans projecting to you that you're promoting that they are so against that they will reject whatever you endeavor to do to help them with their poverty?
Yeah.
Meaning there might be another thing out there that is equally or potentially more important.
Right, which is why the way to not talk to low-income people or union people, members or anybody else,
talk down
is
to
say
them.
like, oh, well, you're voting against your own self-interest.
Hell yeah.
It's like, how are you going to tell me what I'm interested in?
Yeah, but also
like this.
You know, you can picture like well-paid professional from I don't know, somewhere near where we're sitting in New York City, like going up to a union member who is, you know, living near where I live in Michigan, and if that person from New York says like you're voting against your self-interest, that guy can turn around and say, so are you.
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
So there has to. It goes back to this respect.
But when that person, the coastal elite, does it, we're doing it because we're benevolent. I'm so heroic. I'm voting against my own interest for little old you. That's the idea, right?
Well, if it looks and feels like that, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. That could be the. There's one thing, and then I know you got to go. But the guy who does all our partnerships here, one of my best friends, his name is Jamil, and he was working in England for a while. And when he came back after working in England for a while, he found out the American government was like, yo, but even though you worked over there, you still got to pay.
Did you see the 5K to have a baby incentive Trump was mentioning? I'm Canadian, so I don't know what the average cost per birth in the U.S. is, but I'm presuming 5K wouldn't even cover delivery costs. My understanding from the little bit I've seen and read and seen people talking about it is that incentivizing childbirth is just, it's actually incredibly difficult to do. And I don't think anybody's like really figured out how to do that or make that work. The idea of like offering some, you know, amount of money to get people to have more kids, it doesn't seem like that works very well for people. So I don't know. Everybody seems to like that idea or they jerk it off a lot, but I don't know if in practice if it does much.
Pay us tax, and he was like, what do you mean? I wasn't working. He said, yeah, but you're an American, so even if you have a job abroad for a company abroad, you have to pay their tax, but you still got to pay us taxes. You're American. If him as an employee has to do that, Apple got to do it.
Very good.
Google's got to do it. Anybody else out there? It just cannot be that unfair. If there's that much transparency for the average, he wasn't working for an American company over there. Actually, I'm not exactly sure. what the company was, if it was American.
think it was American.
It was an American company, but the idea that he had to pay taxes out there and he also had to pay American taxes, then that company should have to do the exact same thing. And I don't know how you implement that. I understand it's tricky. I understand these guys are paying tens of millions of dollars to these like attorneys that are just tax code nerds that are trying to find the loopholes. I've spoken to some of these guys, and they've.
Why does Israel do so well? Israel's birth rate is not high per se. It's the Orthodox duders, I think, that have the high birth rate. But that's why they do well. That's like a cultural belief that those people have about like fucking populating Judea and Samaria. But it's not. I don't think it's because of financial incentives that those people do it. It's because of like some big like religious cultural reason why they do it.
Literally, I've spoken to some hedge fund dudes that were literally like, listen, we could try to find ways to make money in the market. It's easier to attack the tax code.
Yeah.
They literally told me that
That's where the money is.
The money is attacking the tax code, not the market.
And yeah, not to like repeat myself too many times, but this could be about.
I'm 36 and I can't tell you the last time I had a one-night stand with someone who wasn't a single mom. Well, why don't you try fucking somebody besides your mom?
Code, not the market.
And yeah, not to like repeat myself too many times, but this could be about. It might be that this is about to get much worse. Because there is a debate happening like right now, like through this summer in Congress, where I think there's a lot of people who hope that no one's paying too close attention to the tax changes and the tax cuts that they're about to put in. So this is a great time to hold members of Congress accountable. Because I do think, you know, even if you live in a very Republican area and you got a Republican member of Congress, like most people in that district don't love the idea of skewing the tax code even more toward corporations and wealthy people. Like there's a real moment here, I think, to do something about that.
A moment?
I mean, that's something that would, and I don't understand the wording, but to what we were speaking before, like speaking to people's feelings, like finding a way to effectively tax these corporations, which would reduce taxes on working class people, finding a way to turn that into one sentence, but letting a working class person know that they're going to pay 20% less because we found a way for these corporations to honor what their tax burden should be. I mean,
I wish that there was a way to communicate that, like, it's just, that's a retarded way to think about it, bro. Like, a working class person paying 20% less than their taxes is not that much money. You'd be way better off fighting for more affordable healthcare, more affordable education, more affordable housing in some way. Like, these would be way better things to fight for. But
when Trump or when Doge or whatever was saying, maybe it was Lutnick was talking about the tariffs, and they're like, yeah, well, yes, the goods are going to be more expensive, and it's going to be more expensive for everyday people. But with the money that the tariffs bring in, we're actually going to remove the income tax for people making under $150,000 a year. Whether or not they do that.
Do you think you could try to solve the wealth gap perception by creating a class of people devoid of rights, like anchoring a class to the bottom similar to slavery in the South? Well, I feel like that's a George Carlin skit or something, or was this an anime, or was this a movie or TV show where somebody was like, the only reason they have the bottom sect of society is to keep the middle class working hard enough to let you know you'll be like them if you fuck up. I feel like that's a Carlin thing.
That is fresh meat for somebody who's going, I make under $100,000 a year, and that is a huge burden on me, and I can provide for my kids so much better. They can go to that camp that they
But
tell
what
me
people
they
got to
wanna go
understand is the reality is the tariffs are absolutely a shift of the tax burden onto the lowest income people, right?
100%.
So like they're talking a good game. Yeah, and
they're
I get where
saying
your
they're
point
going to
politically.
offset it with, but they're saying they're going to offset that burden with the money that comes in for the tariffs, regardless if they actually implement this or not.
Jesus.
I hope that you guys come up with strategies that sound just as seductive and then intend to execute them. And what a competitive advantage you would have if you're saying these guys are all talk, they say the nice shit, but they don't really do it. Well, we're not all talk. We're going to say nice shit, and we're delivering on it. And here's why. How can you lose? You'll never lose. But give me some nice shit. Sell me on something. You know what I mean? Like, we need it. Anyway, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank
This was
you,
awesome.
Pete.
It's really incredible. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, I think we're all looking forward to.
Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it.
To seeing what you end up doing, you know, and yeah, I think that you're a really brave and amazing figure in our political sphere. So it'd be cool to see what else you do. Yeah,
I'll be out there.
Yeah, we'll see it. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Pete Buttigieg, all right.
Wow. Cute.